have to stand in line now.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Thursday, February 6, 2020. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination episode 1214.
This is No Agenda.
Ripping the So2 clips and broadcasting live from Opportunity Zone 33 here in the frontier of Austin, Texas, capital of the drone star state. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where we're mulling all kinds of things, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
You're mulling? Nah.
Mulling over.
Mulling over. We're mulling.
Or mulling. I'm mulling.
Yeah, isn't mulling something you do with wine? Mulling?
So let's start with this Super Bowl prediction. You almost had it.
I know, and remember that I said that I still wanted to root for the Chiefs, but that I truly felt, and if you look at the expectations, the way they set it up, it was going to be empowerment for women. There were women all over this place. Co-owners were women. Coaches were women. We had the big empowerment, Jay-Z, Rock Nation, Shakira, J-Lo empowerment halftime, and I blew it.
But you didn't actually. I mean, you didn't go with your gut. You saw Mahomes wearing a Trump shirt.
Yeah, that should have been the clue. I blew it.
That was the clue because the idea was we have
Pelosi versus Trump.
Pelosi versus Trump, and Pelosi represents San Francisco.
Well, I also thought, the president would get impeached, so.
Yeah, that was going to happen.
Yeah. Hey, that was a good game, though. I really enjoyed it.
I didn't care much for it.
Oh, the thing that bothered me.
21-0 in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's not comfortable to watch somebody fold. I mean, this guy, the coach of the 49ers, did this before. He was the offensive coordinator. Nobody cares. He was the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons when it was the biggest fold in Super Bowl history.
The problem I had with it was the technical aspect. I was sitting down waiting I want my player stats flying in Windows. I want telestrators. I want to feel good about the technical production of the show, and it was sparse. Now, maybe football fans like that more, but I thought it to be very, almost low budget. I'm not kidding. You didn't get that at all?
I didn't think about it, but because I prefer just no sound.
You don't even do the sound.
But I understand what you're saying, and I think you're probably correct. And I think for the bulk of the public who doesn't really follow football that close, they just go to watch this one game, and then they watch the halftime show.
Right.
And then they say to themselves, oh, there's a second half? I mean, this is the kind of audience we're dealing with, you included.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree 100% now that you bring it up.
Yeah, it was just lacking. Also, the commercials were meh.
I have a list of some of the commercial issues. We have to talk about this at least for a second since it's gratuitous.
Yes.
And anyone who does a podcast, a broadcast, a radio show, or anything in between has to talk about Super Bowl commercials.
Oh, that's right. That's kind of the law, isn't it? We have to talk about it.
It's FCC.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there was anything I liked. Nothing stuck out like, wow, that's so great. No, none of it.
Okay, here's the problem. What was with all these callbacks to the 60s and 70s? How old was this audience?
No, that's a good question. Maybe that's what they sold it on, an older audiences. I mean, for sure we know that it didn't really do any better than last year, which was already down from the year before. So it's kind of, 98 million people is not bad for anything. But maybe it was all the old 98 million people.
But they had a lot of, and there's a lot of screwy stuff too. The Google ad was creepy. That was like enjoyable because it was so bad.
Wait a minute, which one was that? Oh my gosh, that was horrible.
The worst ad. I think it was the worst ad.
Yeah, explain it again.
I don't remember it. All I remember, I just have in my note, horrible, worst ad ever, creepy Google ad. So it was not effective in terms of memory.
No.
Then there was a couple of these things. What was the point of bringing Ric Flair? I mean, there's a reference to the 70s. There's a reference to Fargo, the movie.
Well, that's because the new series of Fargo is coming out. It was just started.
Okay, well, yeah. I'll take that then.
Yeah.
Then there was Snyder's whole references. These old references. Who I've got written down here. Who's Live? L-I-V. Peanut ad dropped. They were going to drop the dead peanut ad for the baby peanut.
Yeah.
Because of Colby, but they didn't do that. They also starting to call. This is okay. I'll just wrap it up with this.
Yeah, please.
All of a sudden, I see this. There's a bunch of 5G ads. 5G.
Yes, a lot of 5G, and everyone was touting that they're going to connect the country.
as if. But here's what bugged me. They're now touting 5G as ultra-wideband.
Huh.
Ultra-wideband is a very specific technology.
It's something very else. Very different.
It's a spread spectrum style of communication, and it's very specific. It's also used for ground penetrating radar.
And it's the protocol.
It's to do with 5G.
Right. It's an entirely different protocol.
Everything's different.
Yeah.
So they're stealing the name because they can't get any traction with 5G.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, do you remember? Was that Verizon or was it T-Mobile who was touting that? I don't recall.
One of the two. I don't know either. I didn't write that part down. I was just so irked by this. I just blah, 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 blah. Anyway. All right, that's enough.
Yeah, I mean, it really...
The game sucked. The ads sucked. What about the halftime show? It was very... I mentioned to my daughter that it was a bunch of... Because I saw the analysis of the woman who does these analyses, who I think is the amazing Pauly, to be honest about it. She has the same voice.
Yeah.
She breaks down the Super Bowl halftime show as a cult satanic... The whole satanic message to get people into global governance.
Well, the half
was pretty good.
I'd like to hear. Yeah, well, part of that was there. I mean, the halftime show was part of this Jay-Z deal that the white racist NFL owners put together. You know, when they had to kind of rub out the Kaepernick stuff, and they brought Jay-Z in and Rock Nation, so he was the consultant. And here's the only thing that. And I spoke to many different women about this, including my own wife. I kept hearing empowerment. And to men, to me, it's like, it doesn't seem really empowering when you're hanging on a pole. I get the idea of J-Lo's movie, which I like. It was a pretty good movie. And I, without a doubt, the physical effort and still being able to sing, mostly all live, certainly on Jennifer Lopez's part, was incredibly talented, incredibly professional, really good. But I just like, if you're setting us up to be ready for an empowerment message, you literally had a promo or a commercial where there's two football teams, one's kicking the other one's ass, the helmets go off, it's women. There was a lot of this, and it just seemed like, okay. And from the women's perspective that I've spoken to, like, well, yeah, that you can be sexy and be empowered. I'm like, okay, all right, makes sense, I guess. It was nice to look at for me. Otherwise,
I think it was women displayed as sex objects once again.
Yeah, but if you say that to any woman, you get real pushback.
Yeah, I didn't get any pushback from Mimi. Well, I never said it to her either. But that's beside the point. I didn't get any pushback from Jay. She actually watched the game. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed the game.
And she was also stunned when I gave her the cult satanic message. She had bull crap.
Yeah, well, there was some stuff there with the Puerto Rican flag and the American flag, and so I don't know if
what was that all about? Nobody explained that.
Well, Puerto Rico's. Well, I can connect some dots if you want. Puerto Rico, we actually got a note from one of our producers. Let me see. This would be under 2020. Yes. I got a note here. Adam, as you know, in Puerto Rico, we are American citizens who cannot vote for the president of the United States. But here we can vote in the primaries to select the candidates. This year... Let me cue this up. This year, we will have the Democratic primaries on March 29th, and Puerto Rico will send 51 delegates to the Democratic Convention. That's more than Iowa. A delegation larger than the delegation of 20 states. At this moment, Bloomberg is the only candidate with ads in local TV and radio, and it seems he's investing a lot of money since you can watch and hear the ads frequently on shows with the best ratings.
Soy Mike Bloomberg. Y apruebo este mensaje.
That's really bad. I mean, even I know that's really bad Spanish.
That's really bad. He should have been coached.
So
better.
then, he did have an ad. He had an ad.
I know
there.
my Spanish.
He had an ad which I thought was also kind of weak. So maybe that had something to do with it. But, it's Miami. Miami has a different vibe. My real question was, if you have J-Lo and you have Shakira, both very accomplished, who was the dude who came on?
Yes,
I mean,
I
could have done that.
On both acts.
I didn't even look it up. They're so annoying. Like, what is this douchebag? Oh, no, I can go up there and do that. Invite me. I'll put on the silver suit.
I was wondering about that. The guy shows up out of the blue, and maybe he wasn't even supposed to be there. Let's think about it in those terms.
No, I think he was.
Mic him up.
Let me see. Who was the guy in the Super Bowl? I would expect the troll room to have that for me already, but no. Jay Balvin.
Jay Balvin.
Jay Balvin was his name. Yeah.
Well,
he ruined everything. If there was anything that was, he ruined the best parts
all the
of that.
Strippers in the
What is
polls.
going on with that? But that dancing and then singing, that's good. I mean, that was impressive.
I couldn't understand a word of it.
We had snow last night here in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, everybody in the world saw your wife.
Oh, Tina with the snowball.
Tina, the keeper, trying to make she's from Chicago, and she can't even make a snowball, and then she doesn't even know how to throw it. What was that all about?
I think what you saw was a very lightweight snowball to still kind of give it a little idea that there was a snowball, and she just tossed it. She can throw a ball. She's from Chicago. She will kick your ass, so be careful.
Yeah,
you know how they are.
I wouldn't get that impression from this snowball toss of hers.
Gosh.
So you had snow.
Yeah, it's freezing.
What's that all about?
I don't know, man. Global warming, likely. But must be something like that. I don't understand. It's crazy.
Yeah, we never get snow here, and we're at a higher latitude.
So one other thing that was just odd, but I guess it's never been a thing in the NFL is Mahomes, the quarterback for the Chiefs.
What's his name again?
Mahomes. Mahomes.
Back to Mahomes. Mahomes.
Back to Mahomes. He's black, but he was not touted as the third black quarterback in history to win the Super Bowl at all.
I don't believe that's true.
That he's not black?
No, I don't believe it's true that he wasn't touted, because I remember seeing a couple of
but you know what I mean compared to previous Super Bowls. It's been a huge deal.
You can't keep doing it. Fourth, the fifth, the sixth.
No, this was the third to win.
Yeah, I know, but there's already been a couple of guys before him.
Yeah, two.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're going to do it when the fourth guy comes. At some point, you got to just give it up and say, hey, blacks can play quarterback too. It's not like a crazy idea that one would win.
It was just an idea. Okay. You know what? Whatever. Fine. I really don't care.
The sports community's aware of the situation.
Yeah, well, I really don't care.
No, you don't. I'm surprised you watched the game.
No, I love the game.
You didn't even get his name right, so there you have it. That's how important it was.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Bill.
Dick. All right. So then we had... oh, man. What was the next event? The next event was the Iowa caucus, of course.
What a fiasco. Hey, listen, you want to hear a fiasco? I got one of the clips from the Iowa caucus under an Ask Adam.
Oh, okay.
The idea is you got to see how quick you can come up with this guy's name. This guy, I'll tell you, there's something more important. Let's assume it's Pete Buttigieg.
Okay.
Hit it.
You know something? If you had told us 1 year ago that we were going to come in third in Iowa, we would have given anything for that. And you know something? Not only are we going to New Hampshire, Tom Harkin, we're going to South Carolina and Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota and New Mexico. And we're going to California and Texas and New York. And we're going to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan. And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House.
Well, the yeehaw, of course, the Dean scream gave it away.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was in Iowa.
Oh, interesting. I didn't either, really.
Well, why would you? Why would you? All you remember is the scream. Now,
something that I kind of bumped into by accident when of course and actually I sat through the entire from start to finish. Well, start to polls, the caucus polls or whatever they call them, closing. And I watched as many different, breaks. I'm switching around. And of course, I watched more MSNBC. It was probably MSNBC, CNN, then some Fox. But MSNBC, I think they really had their top crack team on it. Because I wanted to really understand. And there were some rule changes. And in a way, I kind of liked it. It seems like a very democratic process where you're arguing with and these sometimes it's groups of a couple hundred people with your neighbors, people from around the neighborhood, and you come in with your first choice and your second choice, and it's kind of like a horse trading market type idea, and I like watching that. And they had interviews with some young people, 17-year-olds who will be eligible to vote in November. So they're, coming up on 18, and they were all excited and like, oh, this is really cool. It's that kind of democracy in process. And then, of course, it all started to fall apart as the results didn't come in. Now we know a lot more about what probably happened, at least technically. And what I was lucky in finding was a January 15th interview on NPR, or a piece actually with a couple of journalists, which specifically mentioned this app and how it was something incredibly new. In fact, here's the intro to their piece.
The upcoming Iowa caucuses represent the first in a year of big tests for America's democracy.
Big test for America's democracy.
After Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election. In fact, NPR and Iowa Public Radio have learned that Iowa state Democrats are going to use a new smartphone app to help run their caucuses. We're going to talk more about that now with two reporters. I want to start with you. First, just remind us how caucus...
Oh, yeah. Notice I cut the reporter's introduction out. It's so annoying.
You first just remind us how caucuses work and how an app would be involved this time around.
Yeah, so caucuses are very different from a primary. There are no ballots. There are no voting booths. Iowans will physically go to different community centers all across the state and physically show their support for a candidate by standing in a different part of the room. And so as far as this app, the party is hoping that it will help precinct leaders be able to report their results more quickly. Those leaders will be calculating how many delegates each candidate wins based on the support in the room. And so having an app, the intention is that process will happen faster and local leaders will have help in calculating those numbers.
So I thought that
it was working, by the way. It was working fine before this app came along.
Well, yes, I don't think we can add much more commentary or color to the issue of the app and what was working or wasn't working. In fact, I believe that the most damage the Democratic Party did with this failure is to their befriended news media, who were super annoyed. They spent 4 or 5 hours the first night alone filling time. And they're like, I was supposed to be out of here at 11. 11, I could be out here. I got dinner plans, and they were grumpy.
You're absolutely correct. This is This is not normally taken into account. You're absolutely right. They got
grumpy.
You're flying to Iowa. You got a schedule. You know what's what. Yeah. How it normally goes.
And
now, because of the app, you're going to get out of there sooner. You may even be able to float around to nightclubs.
But NPR And Public Radio International, to their credit, in this piece from January 15th, they already had done some work, and there were definite questions about the app.
Miles, we've talked a lot about cybersecurity since the 2016 election, given that cyber attacks were part of Russia's interference. How big a deal is this, that Iowa Democrats are going to try and use this approach in 2020?
It's one thing to introduce a new piece of election technology without really any practice beforehand, and then it's another thing to introduce that piece of election technology without giving any security details about it. We know very little about the specifics of this app. We don't know who developed it or who wrote the code. We don't know what sorts of security tests have been performed on it. These are the two basic questions that any security expert would ask when confronting a new system. And the Democratic Party says basically they're not going to provide any of this information because they're scared it would help hackers. But experts actually say that secrecy doesn't help against hacking at all. Here's Betsy Cooper. She's a cybersecurity policy expert at the Aspen Institute.
Basic transparency around how it was built, how up-to-date the security of the app is, and how it's been tested all could be made publicly available with little cost to the DNC.
And this is probably one of the main things when we talk about democracy online, which, John, you and I are really against for this reason, being one of the many. It's just not a good idea. And typically you do want to open source your code, at least have enough available so people can see that this, especially if it's an app, something that could be nefarious. This, I think, is the gem here, where they're going to talk about this security amongst themselves, and I think with the Iowa Democratic Party chair.
Kate, how are these concerns being addressed? As you said, this app is focused mainly on reporting caucus results. Could the election results be, for instance, changed remotely?
So because of the way the caucuses work, there are thousands of witnesses who are seeing the results play out in these caucus locations. This year, the party is also using preference cards, so there will be a paper trail involved that could be referenced. So the idea of the results being tampered with, that could be overturned. There will also be contingency plans that the party has set up. Troy Price, the head of the state party in Iowa, says there will be a hotline for folks to call in if the app doesn't work for whatever reason.
If there is a challenge, we'll be ready with a backup and a backup to that backup and a backup to the backup to the backup. I mean, we are fully prepared to make sure that we can get these results in and get these results in accurately.
And I think this is the potential end of show ISO.
A backup and a backup to that backup and a backup to the backup to the backup.
Fired. You're fired, dude. That's what you are. Backup to the backup and a backup to that backup to the backup.
A backup and a backup to that backup and a backup to the backup to the backup.
Are you kidding me? This guy, what a moron.
That is dumb. That is stupid. Well, that's why Bernie, as the caucuses approached, Bernie, then they had enough people to do this, had a Bernie man, a Bernie bro, at each of the caucuses taking down notes so they could, verify that they weren't going to get screwed over. Because Bernie's paranoid about this. And it turns out that they were screwed over by at least 500 votes here and there.
I'd like to pull it all together. Got one last clip from this NPR piece, and then I think I may know what's going on. There's a couple other things we should look at, but let's close this out.
There are a couple scenarios to look out for here. A successful attack could potentially lead to the wrong winner being announced and then having to be retracted, which would obviously lead to a lot of questions about the election's legitimacy. An attack that didn't even break into the system could still potentially bring it down, which would obviously lead to delays in reporting and a lot of confusion at all of these individual precincts. And then there's the possibility, you have to remember that this app is going to be downloaded on the phones of almost 2,000 party and caucus leaders across the state. These are personal devices that have emails, passwords, text messages, photos, and Russia has already shown an ability to weaponize information that they have hacked and stolen. They did this leading up to the 2016 election, hacking John Podesta's email account and weaponizing those emails. We just do not have enough security specifics about this app to know how it will protect against that same sorts of hacking this time around.
Yeah, I really love that not once, not a single time did anyone even speculate for a second that it could be Russians. Isn't this exactly what we were told they would do?
Well, they could have been the guys who designed the apps, for all we know. Well, they kept it such a secret. Thank you, Democrats. I do have one clip about this. And this is a kind of another clip that kind of wraps things up with a ending that makes more logical sense than anything. This is a guy who does a PBS show in Iowa, the PBS Iowa Hour or something like that. And he is being interviewed by Judy.
Anything you want to add about how Elizabeth Warren or how Joe Biden did?
Yeah, this is bad news for Biden, and it explains why his campaign is complaining the loudest about the delegate count today. Fourth place. There's never been 4 tickets out of Iowa. This is not a good showing. Now, maybe it will change, and this is all tentative, as you've noted, at 62%. Maybe he does better in rural areas, but it's not very good news for Biden. This doesn't give him the momentum that he needs to raise desperately needed money to stay in this race.
And Elizabeth Warren?
I think this halts her slide. She had peaked at one point and then took some hits in debates. And so her campaign was really trying to get some momentum again. So third place, she lives to take the argument on to New Hampshire.
And just in a few seconds, I heard you say you do think this may be the end of the caucuses in Iowa?
Yes, I think the criticism all over the country is this is not a good way to do this. They should go to a primary system. I expect there will be a big discussion nationally in the Democratic National Committee, and I think there will be a discussion in Iowa as well about whether this state shouldn't, in fact, go to a primary like most states.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens in New Hampshire, but it appears that my prediction of impeachment over, we're dropping Joe Biden, could come true.
I'm fearful that this is true.
Yeah.
Now,
let me just reiterate, the idea is they kept Joe in there despite the bumbling and everything else, and he really was not running on a lot of money. Apparently, he doesn't have a lot left. I have no idea, but that's what the word is. And once the impeachment is gone, you no longer need the political opponent of the president to be involved in that story. So now they toss him, and rightly so. They're tossing him right back where he should have stayed to begin with. It's sad, but come on.
Well, again, I am going on the basis of the people who are in the Democratic Party at the upper echelons who I follow on Twitter, and they're all backing Biden to an extreme, and I still think they're going to try to shoehorn him in. Now, I should mention that this guy who predicted the end of the caucuses. This is interesting because there's been other caucus states and they've all fallen by the wayside, and this may be the last to go. And it's easier to control, to manipulate a primary, I think, than it is a caucus situation where you actually see people saying one thing or another. That's why Bernie put his people there so they can do a real head count. I think primaries are more easily, and I think this may have been the goal. If you think about it, was it possible that this app was designed to screw up the thing so badly that they're going to go to the more easily manipulatable primary? Is that possible?
Well, here's what I was thinking. The app could be just a total distraction. And, the fact that I think as of this live broadcast, I don't know if 100% of the information is in yet. It wasn't last night. I think the fix was in with the rule change. And what was new this year, what I understood, is they would also have the raw results. And by everybody's account, Bernie had more people turning out for him. But the way votes were allocated, if you were, quote, viable, and you had 15% of the first round, that's how the delegates, which is really the only thing that was being reported by the M5M, was the delegate count and the percentages of delegates, but not the actual, what you would call the popular vote. And I think that was to be obvious, or maybe there was so much focus was supposed to be put on that, that no one would notice that, they could definitely tap Bernie down by giving, by taking or having operatives for all I care. It doesn't take much to have someone who's not viable pop over to PSYOP Pete. I mean, this is easy stuff, and it was in plain sight. I think that was the genius of it. The app probably wasn't meant to fail, but it was meant to focus people more on the results as desired, i.e. the delegates, and not the completely new and transparent raw vote, which is what the Bernie bros were counting and what ultimately everyone was really pissed off about. In fact, it became such a big thing. Simone Sanders she was grilled for CNN. As far as we can tell, their job is to discredit Bernie Sanders. It started with you told Elizabeth Warren that a woman couldn't win the presidential election. That canard. And then the campaign manager, or one of the campaign managers for Bernie, came out and said, we don't trust it. We don't trust the results at all. And listen how Simone Sanders, who used to be with, who was she with before?
I don't know.
Was she with Biden? Maybe she was with Bernie and now she's with Biden. Well, let's listen.
There was confusion. Do you believe the results? The app that the Iowa Democratic Party used did not work. Do you believe the data that you're seeing? We know that, Simone. Do you believe there?
We understand.
Do you believe the data is correct? People were waiting for 2 hours.
Why can't you say if the data is correct or incorrect?
The Iowa Democratic.
No, but this is interesting because the Brianne Keeler, I guess, from CNN just keeps hammering. Do you think it was accurate? What? Because she wants someone to go on record and say it was rigged, and this piece of chicken shit won't do it either.
Headquarters, they were unable to get that data in there. So what I'm saying is the foundation of this process, the presidential preference cards are very important. So all our campaign has said, and what Kate Bedingfield said yesterday, and what I'm saying today,
Simone, I am going to interrupt. Simone, here's the deal. I'm going to interrupt you, and you're not answering the question. Is this data correct in your view? Is it correct?
Look, Brianna, I have not analyzed the back ends of the data. What we are saying and what we have implored to the Iowa Democratic Party are two things. One, we have to make sure we get it right. Getting it right means checking again, and triple checking, and making sure that there is a paper trail. The presidential preference cards. Don't try to paint this as we're trying to say this is some kind of conspiracy theory, okay? What we are saying,
Simone,
frankly, is that the integrity of this process.
I'm repeating what your communications director is saying.
No. And our communications director is trying to preserve the integrity of this
Simone,
process.
we're going to roll the soundbite. Let's roll the soundbite, you guys. Roll it right now.
And what we think...
If you have a process where you can't be confident that the results that are being reported are reflective of the votes that people cast last night in the process, that's a real concern.
Yeah, I think that was actually Biden, probably. Biden. I think she's with Biden now. The funniest part...
Well, it's a fiasco.
Well, what was just hilarious and showed how the mainstream news media is complicit in ruining everything. So they're trying to figure out how to get this information into Command Central. They're on the phone for hours and hours. And I think this was one of the captains of a big precinct trying to call through to the party and give his precinct information. And of course, he has to be on the phone live at the same time with Brolf over on CNN.
They tried to, I think, promote an app to report the results. The app, by all accounts, just doesn't work. So we've been recommended to call into the hotline, and the hotline has not been responsive.
Have you gotten any explanation, Sean? Sean, have you gotten any explanation at all as to what's going on?
No, I have not. No. I'm just waiting on hold and doing my best to report the results from my precinct.
What are you hearing? I know you're listening to a conversation from the Iowa Democratic Party.
So this is a real coincidence, Wolf. I just got off hold just now, so I've got to get off the phone to report the results.
All right, go ahead and report your results. Can we listen in as you report them, Sean?
Yep.
All right, let's listen.
All right. Okay. Hi. Hello? They hung up on me. They hung up on me.
Wow.
I've been waiting for over an hour.
That's the clip of the day. You have to give yourself that one. That's a good catch.
Clip of the day.
So this guy's on hold for an hour, then he's talking to Brolf, and next thing you know, they hang up on him. This is the
Democratic
bad news
system
for the Democrats.
Very bad, very bad.
It makes can't run anything. You want them to run the economy.
Well, and this was, and that immediately was the right wing, it's Fox News talking point was These are the people who want to run your health care. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure.
I don't think this was a right-wing meme. I think this was a pretty generalized meme that went right down the middle. It wasn't like a bunch of right-wing nutballs.
Yeah, there were. Yeah, that's.
But there were lots in the yes. But you telling me no moderates thought that this was a little bit hinky?
I don't live in moderates. I live in CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. So that's it. And I was hearing all of that on Fox, and certainly not immediately on the other channels. But I'm not accusing you. I'm just saying that seemed like an easy target, you know. Whereas really what was just odd is like we're not going to question the integrity of the security of it. It's all they're incompetent. How about hacking? Isn't this who was it that said they're going to do it in plain sight? The Russians. Oh, it was Malcolm Nance. He predicted this. Yeah, I won't play the whole thing because it's a long clip, but I'll take it about halfway. This was when he was on Joy Reid.
Say, well, that's just too bad. That's the result of the election. Donald Trump wins. And the other party is left standing there blinking at a president who now believes he can do anything he wants in the national interest. So, of course, all of our opponents in the global threat arena, that's North Korea, as you said, Saudi Arabia has a very vested interest in keeping Donald Trump in as president of the United States, and they use Israeli, American, and other subcontractors to carry out nefarious hacking and intelligence activities. This nation is going to be under attack cyber-wise, unlike anything that we've seen before. Not just disinformation, but I think we may possibly finally see people put their hands on the thumbs of the scales of American voting machines or tally machines at the state level, wherever they can. And it will be sloppy. It will be so obvious that, again, there's nothing we're going to be able to do about it because one side will accept the result.
Isn't that exactly what happened? It will be sloppy. It'll be obvious. Where's Malcolm Nance now?
Well, this tells me that it's bull crap. The whole Malcolm Nance thesis is bull crap. And the only thing that we're ever going to see in terms of like Russian hacking is really orchestrated and not orchestrated by the Russians. Yeah. It's like just a big theater because you're right. And this is why you've been so baffled about this. They have not even brought in the idea that the Russians,
not once,
which did this, screwed up this caucus, and it would be right within the scenario because here's the Russians screwing up the Iowa caucus. Who benefits the most? Trump does.
Yeah, exactly.
So it makes nothing but sense. But since since the Democrats are scripting this and it's bull crap, the Russians aren't doing any of this. They're not quick on their feet. They can't ad lib. They can't go off script. So they were flat footed. They didn't know that they had this opportunity. If they were sharp, they would have jumped on that immediately.
Or someone should have at least said, you know who's laughing tonight? Vladimir Putin. That's who's laughing. Something.
They didn't even get one of those in.
Not a single one.
That's because I think, no offense, I used to be a Democrat, but I think the Democrats are stupid.
Low information voters. I have two more independent things. Emma from the Young Turks. She was boots on the ground, and I think she was mainly in the Bernie camp. They have quite a connection there, long time connection to Bernie Sanders with the Young Turks. And here's her feedback on the situation.
The narrative that I think should be coming out of this plays directly into Donald Trump's hands, right? So the Democratic Party has no cohesive idea when it comes to combating Donald Trump in 2020. They want to nominate a status quo candidate, a moderate candidate, a corporatist candidate like Pete Buttigieg or like Joe Biden. But they're unable to coalesce around anything other than that, except for kneecapping Bernie Sanders at every chance that they get. But what they really needed to do was show that they were able to be competent and that they weren't the very corrupt party and part of the corrupt system that Donald Trump ran against successfully in 2016. And when you have this completely convoluted process and app crashing that they didn't test before and then just ask 70-year-olds, hey, work this app on your phone as a part of the process, didn't have any of the captains or people who were monitoring the precincts have any experience with this app before. That just speaks to the very incompetence that Trump so effectively ran against in 2016. So we're off to a great start.
I thought that was funny. I'll applaud that line. That was pretty good.
Good. The way she was a very well set up.
Yeah, it was good. So it can really only be A, total incompetence, which seems the easiest. B, it could be nefarious stuff from the outside or from one of the campaigns. But when you see all the connections, huge, Silicon Valley billionaires, Hillary Clinton operatives, and when I say operatives, campaign managers, surrogates, it starts to become suspicious enough that you could just say, hey, what's up with these people involved in the party to this degree and screwing up this badly? And the woman who's in charge of this at, not Shadow, but the acronym, the $75 million super PAC that was running, that built this, she is supposed to be the Democrat digital, high priestess, and she's the one that's going to make sure that whoever the nominee is, that we're going to out-digitize Trump and his team. It's sad. It's sad.
Good
sad.
Start.
Sad. Yeah, good start. Exactly. And we have to remember that just the day before, or really just was it the day before? Yeah, because it was on Saturday or Sunday. The most important poll from the Iowa Register. And again, it appears it was a digital problem, that some wrong fonts were used, and therefore sometimes Pete's name was omitted. Jake Tapper actually explains it differently.
It's not just Trump is doing his own thing, and then you also have a series of events leading up to even before we get to Iowa that I think understandably made a lot of not just Bernie supporters, but supporters of all Democratic campaigns skeptical. You had the Des Moines Register poll, one of the most important polls coming out before Iowa, deciding not to get pulled out.
Because they had a glitch. I mean, they had a mistake, and so they decided in the interest of...
So when it happens in the advantage of the other party, it's Russian hacking. When it's your own party, it's a glitch. I just want to understand the terms. It's a glitch. And then last night, or was it last night? I don't know. It's been so many days. They really didn't get the coverage, and I only heard about it through this YouTube channel, Status Quo, who reported on it, and that was, again, a data integrity issue 2 days after the caucus.
What the heck is happening with the results from the Iowa caucuses? I know I started this video off with a smile on my face. I promise you, I'm not really smiling, because it's gotten absurd at this point. I don't even know what to think. The Iowa Democratic Party released results after we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. They released results that got us up to 85% of results. Then all of a sudden, they said they had to pull the results because there were discrepancies. Oh my God. What is going on here?
Becky.
Let's take a look at what they said before I get into what I think about it. This is the Iowa Democratic Party. There will be a minor correction to the last batch of results, and we will be pushing an update momentarily. What? What? You're telling me it's here 2 days after the Iowa caucuses. You've had 2 days to report these results that usually take about an hour to report. So normally, in past years, we would have had results pretty much right away on the night of the caucuses. Here we are 2 days later. And not only are you slow trickling these results, but you're screwing them up in a really, really shady way.
So they went from 62% to 71%, then to 85%, and then had to retract that additional that got them to 85% because the data was wrong. I mean, if this wasn't at some level corrupt, then I got a wooden leg or I deserve one. There is corruption here. Someone is clearly doing one or two things, certainly trying to tap Bernie down. The final results, 1/10 of a point of the delegates. Okay, got it, got the message. And Joe Biden is, sayonara. He's out. See ya. And that's the narrative now. Oh, he can't raise money. There's no money. Blah. Joe's talking about a punch to the gut. He's done. He's over. So this was, it was just like Malcolm Nance said. It was so blatant, so obvious. And everyone just go, oh, well, New Hampshire. That's it.
Well, if Biden can sneak through, he will win South Carolina. And if he sticks around, even if he doesn't advertise. And I think it will revitalize his campaign. I'm not giving up on Joe.
No, that's okay. But I do want you to know that the players are out there.
I still think Hillary's the one that should jump in, but I'll take Joe next because I don't think Buttigieg, let's face it, is not going to get it because nobody wants that guy.
But strange,
but party doesn't want Bernie.
But Buttigieg is the story. He came out with a victory speech. And it really was Amy Klobuchar was the first one to say, screw it, I'm going up and saying we did great, see you in New Hampshire. I thought that was a bold move, and I thought it was smart. The media completely covered that up and went all in on the Pete Buttigieg taking the victory lap. And then he arrives in New Hampshire the next day, he takes another victory lap. And, I don't think it's related, but it's bad optics to have both the Buttigieg and the Biden campaign and the Bernie campaign. Was it the Bernie? I think so. Using parts of this company's services, more like text messaging. So it's just money flowing. It's sick. It's sick is what it is. Very, very sad for the Democrat Party, for Iowans who are just, I've been to Iowa, and the people in Iowa, by the way, racist everywhere, MSNBC in particular. They kept having these Clinton people on, black women primarily. Well, the caucuses are really racist because who has time on a Monday night to go out? That's white people. Black people don't have the time because they're babysitting for the white people's babies. The white people are going out to caucus. That's truly the message they were sending. So it's sad.
Well, it's an embarrassment, that's for sure. Yeah. I don't know how sad it is. Anyway, it'll be blow over. It'll just go away after the next round.
But then
they have to reanalyze. But I think Pete will do well the next round. But it's going to be Sanders and Warren that look like they're going to take this, and Biden is going to be again in fourth.
Oh yeah, the Biden's out. He's done. He's no. That's me. I know. You fought. Hey, look. I was wrong about the Super Bowl, and it happens. And you'll be wrong about Joe, and I won't rub it in your face. It happens.
Yeah, you will. But it's not going. It's not going to. Who is going to get the nod? Now,
I'm
the New York Times calls the shots. It's going to have to be Warren.
I'm still waiting for the Hillary swoop. I'm still all in on that. It is so beautiful. Now Bloomberg is going to come in to do. I think people take him at his word. Well, if I don't win, I'll support whoever is. And bring him in. He's got money. Let's bring him in. Maybe, and he knows apps. Oh, maybe he knows apps, man. Maybe he can do it for. He does. He knows a lot about apps. Hillary's still on the periphery. But anyway, that wasn't the end of the fun. Then we had the impeachment. This was a jam-packed week.
Yeah, the impeachment was good. It was.
Hold on, we gotta do the.
Simply unimpeachable. Simply unimpeachable.
Simply unimpeachable.
So it went as planned, and they wrapped it around the State of the Union address, which probably should be discussed first.
Really?
There's actually three events. Three events took place. One,
let's do it in timeline.
Was the 5-minute speeches or 10-minute speeches by each congresswoman, guy and gal.
You mean senator?
Senator.
Yeah.
Every senator got to yak for 5 to 10 minutes, and they all did. And it was, it was like the worst. It took up a whole day or more. And then they went to the State of the Union address. They took a day off. And then they went to the vote for the impeachment where they could yak some more. And everything went kind of according to plan. The Democrats were showboating as much as they could, and it was exaggerated by the news media coverage. And then when they got to the State of the Union address, we got to see.
Wait a minute. Why do you want to do it out of order? I think it's important to do it in order.
I'm giving the future of what we're going to talk about.
All right.
When we got to the State of the Union address, we got to see the president at his best in terms of producing a reality TV show, and which had the drama of Nancy.
You're still passing. You're just going to do it your way. If you want to talk about State of the Union, I have all these clips set up.
No, I'm not talking about State of the Union.
Your character. You're detailing
you can't let me stop because I got to finish. And then we went to the vote where they let him go, and that was the end of it.
What are you talking about? The State of. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, you're right. I guess you're right. The vote was then. Yeah, you're true. So,
what you think?
Well, I want to just stick with the final speeches. I thought that there were some interesting things going on there.
Well, that's what we start with.
Yeah. Do you have anything?
I don't have much about anything but the final speeches, which was Monday.
Yeah.
And what I have is a breakdown of Lisa Desjardins.
Ooh. From PBS.
Slanting the coverage on PBS to such an extreme that everybody that's ever been associated with this show is dead, is rolling over in their graves. It was extremely one-sided. And this was on Monday before the vote and before the State of the Union. And I want to play these and show you just how one-sided and slanted PBS has become.
Without Gwen Ifill.
Well, Gwen and her mentor.
Yeah.
But let's listen to, this is the beginning. And I want you to listen to what she does is she says, here's what happened today. And she's doing, this is like before the State of the Union. So this is the first day of the 3-day event. And she's going to play some of the clips of the people that are doing their 10-minute discussion. And what she does, and I'm going to show it here, she plays Democrat after Democrat after Democrat after Democrat condemning the president.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of Republicans not supporting the president, but kind of condemning the Democrats for condemning the president. And that's the way the report went.
Sounds fair.
So let's start with impeached Lisa DJ1 PBS.
Congressional correspondent Lisa Desjardins begins our coverage.
At the Capitol, the impeachment jury is silent no more.
So I may begin, Mr. President. Thank you.
One by one.
Mr. President, I rise to voice my opposition to these articles of impeachment.
I will vote to convict the president because it is the Senate's constitutional responsibility.
Senators took turns processing 2 weeks of arguments, during which they were forbidden from speaking, into 10 minutes of remarks each.
All right. So she starts off with the intro to the presentation, and she has 2 clips in there. One guy says, I object to the articles, and the other woman, who is the Democrat, says, the president's guilty. So that's a little sloppy there. And so now we go to she rattles off 46 seconds worth of Democrats, and then you'll hear after that clip 29 seconds worth of Republicans. And listen to her how she goes on clip 2.
The Senate must now ask, do these charges meet the standard for impeachment?
For most Democrats, the focus was sharp, the president, and a conclusion that his push to investigate a political rival was a high crime.
Donald Trump did it. He did it. He did exactly what he was alleged to have done. He abused his power. He committed impeachable crimes. He's guilty. There's no question about it.
President Trump took this action to benefit himself personally and not for the good of the nation.
What the president did was wrong, unacceptable, and impeachable.
Democrats have waited days for this, honing thoughts in hallways and in private, and so have Republicans.
Okay.
Now, so you can hear the vitriol on the side of the Democrats. Now she switches to balance the report. She switches to the Republicans and their counter to what the Democrats have done. And she's already put in the mind, starting with the Democrats, the mind of the viewer, the president's guilty. It's pretty obvious.
and so have Republicans. Their focus, largely blasting House Democrats' impeachment process.
The House chose to skip the basic steps of judicial adjudication and instead leapt straight to impeachment as the first resort.
There is no doubt that the House impeachment process was partisan, politically driven, and denied President Trump some of his most basic rights of due process.
That was it. That was her balance. So we have no defense of the president, just it's a process problem.
And they say that we're Trump defenders. Just listen to this stuff, and they're getting paid.
Now we go to the mixed at the end. She wraps it by mixing back and forth, a little back and forth. And again, you'll see the slant, completely anti-Trump slant, and this is how she wraps.
As it did in the trial, the witness question and the decision not to call any permeated the air, with Democrats bluntly critical.
Yet the Senate abandons its responsibilities when it blocked efforts to get the complete truth here in this chamber. As a result, there will be a permanent cloud over these proceedings.
It makes people believe, correctly in my judgment, that the administration, its top people, and Senate Republicans are all hiding the truth. They're afraid of the truth.
To that high-powered charge, Republican leader Mitch McConnell responded with his own volley at Democrats.
I can certainly see why, given President Trump's remarkable achievements over the past 3 years, Democrats might feel a bit uneasy about defeating him at the ballot box. But they don't get to rip the choice away from the voters just because they're afraid they might lose again.
That party divide is evident even in the search for meaning. Democrats concerned for the future.
Unchallenged evil spreads like a virus.
Republicans eager to get to the future.
Work together. We must. We will emerge strong.
Unchallenged evil wins.
Well, that's disappointing for viewers like you.
I thought that was the most biased reporting I've seen from them, and she did just a terrible job. She just cherry-picked the most vile stuff she could, threw it on there, and then had the Republicans sound like a bunch of wimps that really didn't like the guy, and they're just worried about the process. They're all process-oriented. This is nonsense.
I thought Schiff's final little ditty was interesting, and I kind of knew why he was doing it. Which turned out to be true this morning. This is just a piece of his final plea.
But this has become the president's defense, and yet this defense proved indefensible. If abuse of power is not impeachable, even though it is clear the founders considered the highest of all high crimes and misdemeanors, but if it were not impeachable, then a whole range of utterly unacceptable conduct in a president would now be beyond reach. Trump could offer Alaska to the Russians in exchange for support in the next election, or decide to move to Mar-a-Lago permanently and let Jared Kushner run the country, delegating to him the decision whether to go to war. Because those things are not necessarily criminal, this argument would allow that he could not be impeached for such abuses of power. Of course, this would be absurd. More than absurd, it would be dangerous.
So, what he's saying is just absolutely absurd, but he's saying it. I kind of figured it out, but it's obvious. This is what you want to do. You want that setting, although it's the worst television set in the world. It looks like you're in somebody's shitty bathroom with that marble behind you. It's just a bad set. Lighting's bad. Shots wrong. But it's really so that he can be turned into many, many, many political ads.
It is midnight in Washington. The lights are finally going out in the Capitol after a long day in the impeachment trial of Donald J. Trump. You can't trust this president to do the right thing, not for 1 minute, not for one election, not for the sake of our country. You just can't.
Bing, bing, bong, bong, bing,
he will not change, and you know it. History will not be kind to Donald Trump. I think we all know that, not because it will be written by never-Trumpers, but because whenever we have departed from the values of our nation, we have come to regret it, and that regret is written all over the pages of our history. If you find that the House has proved its case and still vote to acquit, Your name will be tied to his with a cord of steel and for all of history. He has betrayed our national security. He has compromised our elections, and he will do so again. You will not change him. You cannot constrain him. Truth matters little to him. What's right matters even less, and decency matters not at all. We have proven Donald Trump guilty. Now do impartial justice and convict him.
Woo! It's going to be scary this election season. Orange man bad. I did not throw the bing, bing, bong, bong in there. That's in there. The visuals, of course, are fantastic. Throwing up Martin Luther King and Obama and all the good guys, JFK. That's a political ad against Trump.
Produced by whom? You're right, by the way. Everything that Schiff did and everything he said, especially when they had the marble behind him, was written as though it was going to go into an ad.
It was 11 Films is the name of the outfit that did it. They're in Portland. I don't know who paid them. I don't know. There was one little funny ISO that came out of the Schumer. Schumer did some kind of stand-up presser, and he was orchestrating the press, and this came out of his mouth.
I'll do you, and then I'll do her.
Okay, thanks. Maybe someone would want that for a...
Oh, that's a good catch. I actually got the whole clip. I have this part of it. This is because I have the end of it. I also have it in ISO.
Oh, okay.
This is... Where's my Schumer clip? Schumer is astounded.
No mistake about it. The drip, drip, drip of evidence is going to keep coming out. With each new revelation, Republicans are going to have to answer for their votes. They chose to turn their back on the American people and stand for a cover-up. They chose to use ad hominem attacks and finger-pointing. Leader McConnell couldn't even bring himself to say what the president did was wrong when you asked him a few minutes ago. That's astounding. That's astounding.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I like the desert. Well, the other one I have this is competing with the one you already pre-picked for yourself.
Yeah.
But there's a 10-car train today.
Oh, economy is up.
I have the astounding ISO, which you just played, and then I have the Yarg ISO.
Yeah, it's old. No, that doesn't. Come on, you cannot. I'm sorry. There is just nothing that, personally, I think can go above my ISO.
Play it.
Okay. I was going to wait to play it at the end of the show again where it belongs, but yes, here it is.
A backup and a backup to that backup and a backup to the backup to the backup.
I mean, that's legendary. That needs to be codified. Well, we'll wait. We'll see what comes up.
Well, no, I'm on your side on this because although I will say, what's the clip length?
It's 3 seconds. It is on the long side. It is on the long side.
But if you're going to want to set the precedent, you know what's going to happen.
Simply unimpeachable.
All right. We have a choice. We can thank some people, or we can go State of the Union, then thank some people. I like the tease, but it's up to you.
I think that we can. Let me think for a second. If we thank some people, what time is it?
Okay, hold on.
Zephyr just went by an hour late.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are making important production decisions. These decisions do not come easy.
People.
What? What?
I said if we're going to thank some people, there's one issue that has to be at least acknowledged. You're supposed to say, yeah, what's that?
I'm all ears.
I don't have the spreadsheet up yet.
I'm
getting it up as I stall.
Let's talk about the State of the Union.
So, no. Let's go to the.
And with that, I'd like to thank you for your courage and say in the morning to you, the man who put the C in the caucuses that were cocked up, John Friedrich.
Well, in the morning to you. Also in the morning to all ships at sea, boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water, and all the dames and knights out there.
Yes. Hi, dames, knights.
All right. Don't you have something to say about the show, Art, or something?
Yeah, I was just making sure you were aware that I was still here.
I'm good to go.
In the morning to the trolls in our troll room. That's NoAgendaStream.com is where you can join in, troll away. We have over 1,000 trolls tapped in, jacked in, mainlining to our live stream as we speak. NoAgendaStream.com is where 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you've got great podcasts, commercial-free, many on the value for value system. You can discover them there. You can listen to people doing them live. You can chat with your fellow trolls. You can troll. Just troll. Just go in and troll. I feel like trolling. Who gives a crap about the podcast? That's what it's for. NoAgendaStream.com. And then a big hearty in the morning to the artist for our previous episode. That was 1213, 1213. Title of it, Kung Flu. Mike Riley, who is a pro as well, and we have many pros who stop by NoAgendaArtGenerator.com, created the most obvious, I think, piece of art, which was a Super Bowl, 2 helmets, but really nicely done with the logos. You had the 49ers JCD helmet. I had the Chiefs AC helmet. It was perfect for the Super Bowl. A beautiful piece. Popped like crazy. I don't recall if we had any. Did we have any other contenders that we were looking at?
It wasn't really, no.
I don't think so either. I mean, all of them are good.
You actually were thinking about his variation one of the same art where he used Miami Vice.
Right, colors,
colors,
yeah.
I thought that was.
But I'm kind of colorblind, so I think I can't.
I know people forget that.
I can't see the the dots, and you're supposed to see the numbers. Yeah, no, I see nothing. I see dots. I cannot see the numbers. So
have you tried those glasses?
Those glasses?
Oh, I guess not.
No. What glasses are you referring to?
Colorblind glasses for colorblind people?
No, I got glasses just for blind people, and I got hearing aids, and pretty soon I'll have crutches. I mean, I'm just deteriorating. Is this what I have to look forward to, John? Is this what happens?
I'm not on crutches
yet.
I'm not going to be on crutches. I was on crutches when I was a kid, and I broke.
Really?
I broke. No, actually, not when I was a kid. I was actually working for the air pollution district, and I broke my ankle playing pickup basketball during the day.
During workday?
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. Sounds like a government gig to me. NoAgendaArtGenerator.com is where you can find all of the artwork. Mike Riley, thank you so much. Good work. It's appreciated. Everyone else who participated. And we always look forward to, once again, solidifying our position in all the podcast apps, many of which do support the different album art per episode. Because we stand out, we pop. It's a fact. It works very well. It's a great piece of value that we receive from these artists in our Value for Value network. And also, thank goodness, people contribute monetarily, often with their coded messages in the numbers they send. And we're going to thank some of those today, right now, starting off with our executive producers for episode 1214.
Sir Russ of Hellgate's at the top of the list, $333.33 from Grants Pass, Oregon, which I believe is Hellgate. Okay. Thank you very much. He starts off his note. He sent a note in. Hello, Crackpot Buzzkill. Thank you very much for your regular dose of sanity. Keep on doing your great deconstruction of the news. I see no let up in the insanity.
Right.
Well, we don't either. We wouldn't be doing the show.
Mm-hmm.
Please, some karma for all the No Agenda family for this New Year jingles. Oh, sorry, I should have played this first, but
That's
you can
right.
do this.
It's all right.
Get your pencil.
Yep.
We go out and hit people in the mouth. And this was going to be a hard one to find, but I think you can find it. I'm shocked to find gambling is going on. And my favorite, personally, and also his, can you stop the hammering? Sir Russ of Hellgate, KG7ZPF 73s. And it's Russ Williamson in Grants Pass, Oregon.
Okay. Well, interesting combo.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
Stop the hammering!
Stop the hammering.
You've got karma.
What's that little addition using?
Yeah, that's new. I had a little kid I added in there.
Stop the hammering. Who got the hammer?
I love it when parents abuse their children for this show. It's appreciated.
Thomas Anaya is next on the list from Los Gatos, the Lost Cat, or The Cats, in 333. Please forgive my long delay between donations. A proper de-douching is in order.
You've been de-douched.
And if you can spare me a little goat karma, I would be blessed. Keep up the great work.
You've got karma.
Sir Patrick of the Pugner Order comes in with $300 from Carnation, Washington, and he just says, "Yo!" Sir Patrick of the Pugner Order.
Thank you, Sir Patrick.
Sir Dave, Earl of America's Heartland in Saudi Arabia. We know who this is.
Yes.
And he says, go chefs.
Go chefs.
This actually came in for the last show. He came in late, and we didn't have his note read. Turns out that Obadiah, the emotional support octopus, is indeed male, but identifies as a Hamadryas baboon. Who knew? Okay. Pax Fugazotto.
And we've got your much better half, Dame Melody, here in Austin Saturday. We're going out to dinner.
Saturday dinner.
That's right. We're going to get all the lowdown on Sir Dave. Straight from I can't say the horse's mouth.
Source.
That would be rude. Straight from the source, yes.
Allison Bram, 21420. Another associate executive producer. ITM Gents, please accept this early Valentine's Day donation. We got Valentine's Day coming up. We should mention that. On behalf of my smoking hot wife, Allison, please de-douche her.
You've been de-douched.
Allison's lucky number is 14. Since 214 is not a show day, I figured donating to the show 1214 was the next best thing.
Oh, sounds reasonable.
Not bad. That's one of the ways you can do it. She works a thankless job as a high school science teacher.
Oh, man.
Most days putting in hours before and after what she gets paid for. Then she comes home to feed the kids and help them with their homework and finally getting to sit down and relax herself. My job requires me to work away from home most of the time, so she doesn't get much help from me. I figured a donation in her name to the greatest podcast in the universe was a good way to let her know how much I appreciate all she does for our family.
That's sweet.
Hopefully she's listening. Any of the number of small things could help our situation, so a general goat karma would be greatly appreciated, and dealer's choice of L. Sharpton is sure to be enjoyed. Thank you, John and Adam, for all you do, and thank you, for Allison, for being an amazing wife. I'm still a douchebag.
RESPICT. You've got karma.
Thank you very much. And that's Allison is his wife. What was his name?
Allison got credit for this donation, but in fact,
C. His name
we don't have a name of Allison's husband.
No, all I got is a C. It's not telling me much.
C. Charles.
Maybe Charles. Okay.
Carl. Well, there is a Carl coming up.
Yeah.
Karl Leipold. Or Leipold. $210.33, whatever, however he pronounces his name. I've been an avid listener since August 2019, he writes, after being hit in the mouth by my smoking hot girlfriend and partner. The show has opened my eyes to the ways of the world and how much the general public is being misled.
Yo.
Forget ever having an exit strategy. The No Agenda show is just too important.
Well, there you go, John. You're stuck with me for the rest of our days.
In honor of my birthday, I'll let that slide. In honor of my birthday, because I have nothing funny to say. In honor of my birthday, Sunday, February 9th, I request a de-douching as this is it's too depressing.
Yeah.
In honor of my birthday, Sunday, February 9th, I request a de-douching as this is my first donation towards my upcoming knighthood.
You've been de-douched.
Play a few random jingles and get some karma to everybody.
Oh, okay. I can do that.
Just take your medicine. Just take your medicine. No, that's one mother I'd like to. Atlas Shrugged
by Ayn Rand.
You've got karma.
Just a couple of randos.
Randos. Christopher John Benefield, 20202. ITM, John and Adam. Sunday night, I was listening to show 1213 while reloading some ammo. That's the thing to do. When you're doing some reloads, you might as well be listening to the show. I had assembled 30 cartridges and looked down at my dwindling supply of bullets to find 3 left. This combined with it being the 33rd day of the year, I knew I must act and break my freeloading ways. This being my first donation, I'm requesting a much-needed de-douching.
Yes, sir.
You've been de-douched.
I was hit in the mouth by a coworker 4 months ago and have had my amygdala continually shrink twice weekly ever since. Please call out Casey of TME Land as a well-intended douchebag. His Casey's never donated. I would love some Trump Pelosi jobs karma and a little girl boom shakalaka for good measure. Keep up the great deconstructions. Signed, Combat Rock of the Idaho Highlands.
Wait a minute, didn't he ask for a de-douching as well? I thought I saw that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, he said you requested. Didn't you de-douche him in the fly?
I thought we did. Maybe I did. We need a douchebag. Oh, we did. I guess we. Just in case. I can't remember.
You've been de-douched.
Chance on these things.
I can't remember this stuff. It's hard. Okay. What is it? Trump Pelosi jobs karma, and what else do we have? A little girl boom shakalaka. Okay. Yeah. All right. We got it. We got it together.
Boom shakalaka. Boom shakalaka.
Jobs.
And jobs. Let's vote for jobs. You've got karma.
There we go.
Okay. Now we go to Stephen Storm. And he sent a note in with his donation of 200 even. And it says, hello, John and Adam. This Thursday being my 33rd birthday, I thought we don't have him on the birthday list.
Oh. Okay. Righty. Stephen Storm. And it will be his 33rd.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
I thought finally, after 8 years, this is interesting. He's listened to the show for 8 years.
And this will be today?
Yeah, today.
Okay. 8 years.
I thought I'd finally, after 8 years, stop being a douchebag and donate. I appreciate what you guys do and hope to achieve knighthood by the end of my 33rd year, being that I'm on the hunt for a new, better job. Some jobs karma might help me to achieve that knighthood. So within the next year, he wants to get there. Okay, That's good. You can do that. On the subject of birthdays, my mother Mary's birthday happens to be tomorrow. So if you'd be so kind as to put her on the birthday list too. Mary Storm. Mrs. Storm is the last name. It's a great name, Mary Storm. Mary Storm.
Mary Storm, Z100. Yeah. And how old will Mary be?
Doesn't say.
Okay.
Probably doesn't want us to know.
All right.
As a way to hit my dad in the mouth, I badgered him into listening to the show for my birthday, so hopefully they both hear this.
And her birthday is tomorrow or today as well? Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay. Yep, got it.
Thanks again for the many years of media assassination.
Yes. That's what we do.
And that is our last donor for our last donor. By the way, he's in Karnas, Washington. That's our group of executive producers and associate executive producers for show 1214.
Thank you very much to these now officially accredited executive producers and associate executive producers, because not only do you get to feel good about supporting the show through our Value for Value network, do you have your message read, but you also receive an official credit, and in this case, it's executive producer or associate executive producer. You can use these anywhere credits are recognized. LinkedIn is the place where people have the most success with them, particularly if you're looking for jobs. That seems to be a good spot and works for a lot of people. And we thank you, and we'll be thanking more people in our second segment. You guys kept it rolling. We appreciate it. And, of course, you can help us for our next show on Sunday. Go to Dvorak.org/NA. Yes, do that. And we got to...
Our formula
exactly.
is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
I'm out of control here. I don't know what I'm doing.
A backup and a backup to that backup and a backup to the backup to the backup.
Oh, yeah, I did want to do one thing. Rush Limbaugh announced that he had stage 4 cancer, lung cancer, which is, my mom died of lung cancer, so I have some experience with it from close up. Not good. What disappointed me, though, is that everybody immediately is like, here, no, let me put it in a different way. I really didn't hear anyone say, hey, man, let's beat this. You know, you've overcome incredible odds. Try. It's like everyone's given up. The eulogies are already being written. I found that very sad.
Well, I actually tracked a lot of this on Twitter because I wanted to put together a newsletter that shows a lot of the hate. Oh, good.
Oh, my God. I hope he dies a slow and painful death. That asshole. He supported birtherism. It's exactly what I read. It's like, come on, man.
And not only that, but as I think one person put it, everybody that's saying anything about Rush at all has never listened to his show. And they never have. I mean, Rush Limbaugh's show is not.
But they've listened to the
crazy show.
They've listened to the format he pioneered because it's a format he pioneered. You listen to, Sirius Progressive, any of these talk show channels. It's all the same. He pioneered an incredible format.
Well, let's talk about that for a quick second. I noticed this when it happened because I worked a lot of radio as usually a substitute host here and there in the Bay Area.
And did you go by John C. Dvorak? Was that your on-air name?
DJ John.
Hey, everybody, it's DJ J.C. Day.
And the old school talk radio was you get on and you take a lot of calls. Yeah. And there'd be phone calls, and there would be phone call centric. People would call in and they'd yak.
Right.
Limbaugh
didn't do that.
Limbaugh didn't do that. He came up with a new theory. And I think it was based on the fact that he'd done talk radio for a while, or he worked in Sacramento. He did some other things. And he noticed two things. First of all, of course, he became very partisan because the Fairness Act was repealed, and he could just be a Republican, which is what he did. And so he didn't have to balance the show like he supposedly had to do in the past. But the other thing was he noticed that call-in shows, which is what most talk radio was during the 80s, early 80s, especially in the late 70s, where you'd take a lot of calls and you'd kind of interact with these callers and you'd yak, and they'd talk. He noticed that most of the call-ins weren't as interesting as he was. And they were boring in many cases, and they would ramble, and they were hard to cut off. And some of the more entertaining guys that did talk radio would hang up on guys and make a big scene about "you suck," and they'd hang up.
Right.
And that was always entertaining. But it was a gimmicky thing. So Limbaugh found that if he just talked, it was talk radio of one guy talking and yak, he talking, then maybe take a call to take a break.
Right.
Repeat himself a lot over the 3 hours a day, but it was mostly him talking and giving his opinions, and that seemed to be more interesting than taking a lot of phone calls. So he never took a lot of phone calls. The other guys who came along after him were the same way. They pretty much wiped out the call-in part of the show, and that includes Michael Savage, who just could talk for days, and the big chatterbox, Mr. Chatterbox, who can't stop talking, is Sean Hannity. And that guy, I think he'd go 3 hours without taking a call. And that really changed the structure of talk radio and turned out to be what the audience wanted. They just wanted to hear a voice that was consistent and yakking at them. And that's how Rush made $400 million in one contract.
And we are, of course, the No Agenda Show. And when we have anyone that is going through this, we have something for that. And it's called the F Cancer. And I'd like to send one out from me, and I think from you as well, John, to Rush Limbaugh.
You've got karma.
So I got to meet him once. And it was just casual. He was ironically smoking a cigar.
I've met him several times. We had the same syndication company. And he's a very nice guy. And
very nice guy.
And it was very clear in the pecking order at the syndication company. There was Rush Limbaugh, and then really a whole lot of nothing. Then below the whale poop, that's where I came in. Rush Limbaugh, certainly in the radio business, is unparalleled on all levels. All levels.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the
State of the Union.
Now, there's a couple of, I don't have any clips except one, but not from the State of the Union. I just have some observations. I thought it was reality TV at its finest.
Well, hold on. That's too easy. That's like, it was reality TV. This was just call it what it is. What is the number one show in America? What is the number one show in America? The Bachelor. What are probably the top 10 shows in America? The television pundits can wrinkle their noses and squint their eyes and say, it was a reality television show. I wasn't saying it. I'm not saying you were. I'm saying the pundits. You're not a pundit.
I am a pundit.
I want to stop because it's certainly from us. Our producers deserve to hear a little bit more about what was going on. This could not have been a better structured television format, because that's what it was. And I think that once again, completely the establishment, the media establishment, underestimated Trump severely with what he does with these things. It's so obvious. You take beautiful stories from people, you connect that to Tina said this actually. Wow, he's taking stories from people and connecting it to his outcomes. And it's a beautiful trap, because you can say, it's much like the Democrat rebuttal to the State of the Union, which we can play 3 seconds of.
Oh, that was pathetic.
We'll get to that. Where you say, well, there's Mary in South Carolina and she's struggling. But when you put those people there and then you say, and this is their struggle, and thank you for being here. We had the redemption story. Hey, man, you were alcoholic on drugs. You came back. You've got a job thanks to the opportunity zones. Stand up, other black guy who did that. I mean, he was going after the black vote. He was saying it's, and I think in an interesting way, also the Latino vote, who are not for illegal immigration, the ones that are here legally. And, what people said is, well, it was just like Oprah and Ellen with you got a car, you got a car. You know what? Look at the ratings, douchebags. Exactly. And you sound like elitist, not you, John. You sound like elitist douchebags because you can't stand that he did exactly what the American public wants. This is how we buy our washing powder, through these types of shows. He did a brilliant job. And then, oh my God, he gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Rush Limbaugh. This thing has been given to Elvis Presley, to Oprah Winfrey. This is a presidential show business ribbon, and it's nice. It's a nice thing to get. It's like, oh, this is... Then he had the Tuskegee Airmen, who coincidentally had been he did the coin toss at the Super Bowl. He had the Marine come home. This was just a fantastic show. People love it. And in fact, the only thing I wanted to play from a punditry perspective is Van Jones. He did the same thing. I think... I don't remember. It was before the election. He completely sees what Trump is doing from the black vote. And I think that in the numbers, the way I understand the numbers, the Democrats need the black voting bloc. And if Trump can shave off maybe even 3% of people who show up to vote, African Americans, because a lot of them didn't show up. A bigger percentage than the Democrats would have liked to see in 2016, then the Democrats can't win. That is a very important block. They pander to it all the time. And here's Van Jones to explain what he sees. And I think he put everybody on notice in the media as well. It's like, you guys don't see it, you're idiots.
I think the last 24 hours have been a big wake-up call for Democrats. That's what I think. The Iowa caucus was a debacle. And this was a very strong speech, and it shows what he thinks he needs to do to win. And I think we have to be very clinical about this. I think you're exactly right. He knows he's got to give a lot of red meat to his base, and he gave it. From religious liberty, abortion, all of it, the military, etc. But he's doing something else, and it has to do with how he's going to manage race in this thing. And there seems to be a trade-off between the Latinos and the African Americans. That's what you see. He went hard on the sanctuary city stuff. Mm-hmm. That is very, very disturbing. It turns out sanctuary cities are actually safer than non-sanctuary cities. The Cato Institute, which is libertarian, has come out and said that immigrants are committing less crime. So for some reason, he thinks that doubling down on the anti-immigrant piece is a big part of his thing. At the same time, warning the Democrats, what he was saying to African Americans can be effective. You may not like it, but he mentioned HBCUs. Our black colleges have been struggling for a long time. A bunch of them have gone under. He threw a lifeline to them in real life in his budget. He talked about that. He talked about the criminal justice reform. He talked about opportunity zones.
School choice.
He talked about school choice.
Yeah.
Listen, wake up.
He doesn't have to be effective. Exactly. He has to be effective to move margins in key states.
And the thing about it is, and I think that we got to wake up, folks. There's a whole bubble thing that goes on. We say, well, he said S-hole nations, therefore all black people are going to hate him forever. That ain't necessarily so. And I think what you're going to see him do is say, you may not like my rhetoric, but look at my results, look at my record to black people. And if he narrowcasts that, it's going to be effective, which means as we move through this primary process, we've got to pay a lot more attention both to what's going on with the Latino vote. Are we going to get a benefit in terms of having them respond? And with the black vote, is there going to be a split off, especially for black male voters? We got to be clinical about this stuff. We get so emotional about it. That was a warning to us, a warning shot across the bow of Democrats that he's going after enough black folks to cause us problems. It's not just the white suburban voters. He's going after black votes.
And you'll remember, second commercial in the first commercial block of the Super Bowl was a Trump prison reform ad. These things matter to black Americans, African Americans. And also, Trump specifically says historically black colleges and universities, he's really trying to communicate to the ADOS, American descendants of slavery, which is I think appreciated because so often it's, well, black and brown people that live over there, minorities. That's not what African Americans want to hear. They wanted to hear what Trump had to say. And I think that was the killer blow.
Well, I'll go back to my reality TV comment. I think what was, to me, the most interesting part about it wasn't these. I had all these guests come out, and they were all, many of them, in tears for one reason or another, which was, again, a reality TV mechanism. Mm-hmm. But it was the fact that he would say something like, we have to end all crime. And he would get all the Republicans to stand up and all the Democrats to stay seated. And many of them very well defined because the women decided to wear white.
Again, yeah.
And so there was like this huge group of people that were seated with their arms crossed, and they didn't. So in other words, they didn't want crime to be stopped.
Well, there was a lot of that.
They didn't want murder.
Even women's issues, they weren't standing up.
They wouldn't stand for anything except one or two items. And Nancy Pelosi in the back, she was the cue. She would be the one, again,
she was
like
orchestrating
reality TV.
Yeah.
She would be the director. When she would clap, they would clap. If she didn't clap, they didn't clap. If she would stand, they would stand.
And she shushed them too a couple of times.
She did. She shushed something, and I'm not sure what it was. But she was, because they didn't throw the camera over there.
They were booing. They were booing and gasping and sighing and eye rolling.
I guess that was. So she pointed, oh no, you don't do that. So she's like the kind of the stage manager for the for the Democrats.
Unfortunately, on screen the whole time. And did you see Pence? Because he knew that he wasn't squarely behind Trump, so he was askew. His right shoulder was actually not even touching the back of the chair. He was so tilted over to make sure that you could see his whole head.
He was looking for the lens.
Yeah, totally. He was like,
and so,
hey, you got me.
But she was over there grumbling, and then she was chewing on her cud.
She's got to stop doing that.
She's chewing away. She looks terrible. And so that to me was the best part, which was to get the yes, we're for peace and prosperity. Yes, we are for peace and prosperity, while the Democrats were sitting on their hands. No, we're against peace and prosperity. We're for murder and illegal
mayhem.
It just was. I think it was a sucker. He played a sucker. He suckered them.
You know what I really like?
It was orchestrated so they would be embarrassed.
Oh, yeah. And there was a couple things. Well, first of all, his hair was a helmet. He would turn his head, and the back of his hair would brush against his shoulder, and the whole thing went whoop. I kept seeing his hair move. Like, oh, man, just a little lighter on the spray in the back. When he was talking about the $2 trillion that we've spent on the military-industrial complex, and they cut to the generals, I mean, they should have had thought balloons. They were like, do you know what we did with that? Where'd it go, man? Where's all that money? They look shifty. They didn't look very confident in this $2 trillion they've put into something.
Now, there was another element to this, which was the quote-unquote fact-checking. And the fact-checking thing is getting really old and stale. And one of the things that if you notice, you listen to the fact-checking, they really didn't find a lot of facts that Trump said that were wrong. They were just kind of questionable or borderline, or Trump would say something like 3.9 million, and they said, no, it was 3.85. They were like really they're nitpicking about some of these facts, so they get added to the 25,000 lies.
I know. I'd like to strengthen your argument because I got a little tired. It's actually more than 16,000 lies. This is the thing. Should be in the Trump rotation. 16,000 lies. And we'll get back to State of the Union. I'll just play this little bit of this clip. When I saw this clip of Jimmy Kimmel, and that made me dive into it to find out.
The moment Donald Trump put his hand on the Bible and swore to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, that was his first official lie as president. And he just kept going from there. According to the Washington Post, since taking office, Trump has racked up more than 16,000 false or misleading claims. 16,241 lies. And that's just in public. That doesn't even include the time he told Don Jr. he loves him. That's just...
So I went and I wanted to find out who has tracked this, since it's such a thing. 16,000. It's the Washington Post. The number they have a database, and the number is currently 16,241. And, of course, it's not lies. They titled as false or misleading claims. Just the first page, just to give you an idea of what's in here. January 18th, 2020, Trump said, I remember 2016, the election, the fake news. They said Trump was going to have a hard time winning Texas. So that's one column. That's the false allegation or the lie. On the right-hand column, they have their debunked statement. Literally one line. Trump was always going to win Texas easily. So that's a lie. So what he said there is a lie because that's their fact check. Trump was always going to win Texas easily. Let's see. A couple of others. Since my election in the United States...
By the way, before you go on, and I like this list, I remember when some people were talking about both Georgia and Texas possibly switching over.
But this is my point. It's very subjective claims.
Read more.
January 18th, 2020. Trump said, since my election, the United States has gained 7 million jobs. Unthought of. If I had said that in the campaign trail, the fake news would have gone crazy. The rebuttal, because this, of course, is false. Trump cites how many jobs have been created since the election, but not since the beginning of his administration. Ha ha! We've got him! Since he took office, it was 6.7 million. It's not 7 million. It's rounding up. Lie! Okay, the next one. January 18th, 2020. I got it. The unemployment rate is now 3.5%, the lowest in more than 51 years. The rebuttal from Washington Post. I have to do the voice. For some reason, Trump always stretches this claim. Throughout 2018 and 2019, a low of 3.5% unemployment would be the best in 50 years, not 51! This is the shit that's at the top of the list, yes.
Is 50 not 51?
Yeah, because they call a lie? Because they feel that when he said it, it was in a year that didn't have the exact number, so it really was the best in 50 years and not 51. That's one of the lies. And you can go through all 16,000 of them. It's stuff like that. It's called ant fucking, and it's lame, although very entertaining to read it. It just, it's crazy.
Well, it just points out the insanity of these people.
It's the Washington Post.
But the Washington Post is insane.
Here, January 18th. They had to capture them. They, the migrants, couldn't get over the wall. They had to send trucks and ladders. They got stuck on top of the wall. They couldn't get down, loaded up with drugs on their back. The rebuttal? News reports say there's no evidence to suggest that the migrants were carrying drugs. I mean, they take such an odd stance. Anything to, as a result of our reductions in regulations, the average American household will save $3,100 a year just on regulation cuts. Wrong! It's not $3,100. It's $3,000. You're wrong. You're lying, Trump. I mean, it boggles the mind. It boggles the mind. I mean, so, okay, he's doing great for everybody, but he's a liar because it's not $3,100, it's $3,000. I mean, come on. So that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff. Now,
yeah,
I loved how he did some of his own stories and if you watch the video of course, I was really only watching Nancy. He starts and she's reading along.
Hey, stop. That. I never thought of that. Nancy is a classic Hollywood scene stealer.
Yeah, she is. You're right.
Somebody's who's your eyes can. Now that you mentioned it, I don't even remember seeing Trump's expressions because you just
were watching
Nancy.
Unless his hair moved, I saw that. And then, but Nancy. So he starts. And she's reading along with the script, which around this point she pre-tore. I'm sure you've seen that now on Twitter. There's video of it everywhere. She pre-tore the pages for her dramatic tear at the end. So this is probably half an hour before the end. She already had decided that this is what she was going to do. And he starts reading this horrific story about a criminal illegal immigrant who's, in this rampage he went on. But as he starts to go in, like California is the worst with this. And of course, what he said was
California passed an outrageous law declaring their whole state to be a sanctuary for criminal illegal immigrants.
So we'll get into sanctuary in a moment. But as he's reading that, you need to go back and watch her face because you can see she's reading ahead and see that he's going to read this horrific story of people getting shot at close range, and her mouth falls open and she's horrified that he is going to read this about her jurisdiction, basically her state, and that's when the whole getting ready to tear the thing, etc. But the I was too late. I immediately tried to register Stanktuary.com. It's all registered, of course. People are much faster than me.
I have a clip. Scott Adams, actually, I thought did a pretty good job of discussing this particular gaffe. Was it a gaffe? Was it not a gaffe? And I thought this was pretty funny.
And my favorite part is that when the president misspoke, he slurred a word. He was trying to say sanctuary city, but it came out Stanktuary City. To which I said to myself, he's a natural. He can make up a nickname kill shot for a person, with 2 minutes of thought, and it'll be like a permanent nickname that we all use. But he came up with a San Francisco linguistic kill shot. It's no longer just a sanctuary city that has human feces on the sidewalk. It is quite properly a Stanktuary city.
Maybe. It sure seemed like an actual flub. But maybe his brain is so talented, according to Scott Adams, that his brain immediately recovers with something that the rest of the world will love. I don't know. Maybe.
I have said a lot of one-liners that I didn't mean to say, that came just from my subconscious.
Yeah, and then subconscious is still your conscious.
Turned out to be a perfect pun, and when wow, I'm pretty funny.
So one moment of the speech, I was shocked, horrified, dumbfounded. I mean, this was the lie. There was a huge lie that I don't see at the top of the Washington Post 16,000 lie database. This was the lie of the evening.
Here this evening is a very brave man who carries with him the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of all Venezuelans. Joining us in the gallery is the true and legitimate president of Venezuela, Juan Guaido. Mr. President, please take this message.
Bullshit.
He is not the true legitimate president of the even of the council or whatever. He was his so-called term ended. He held his own phony baloney swearing-in ceremony. He had to pretend to hop over the wall of the parliament to make a scene about it. He's not. He's just not. He's not the legitimate president. That was a total CIA, whatever. I don't know what he was thinking. It really discredited a lot for me. It's like, come on. And then Guaido, it was literally Obama. He just looked like Obama. It almost looked like he did a Vulcan salute. Yeah, and maybe Trump thought it would be funny to have like an Obama guy in the crowd that he could wave to. I don't know. But I was appalled by that lie. I was appalled by it.
Well, he may have gone along with the program to get some kudos from the New York Times, who credited his speech as a grand slam for some reason. I think you could have just as easily taken an analysis of this speech and taken the opposite approach and seeing how bad it was as a State of the Union speech. It's quite easy to do that.
Of course.
With any of these things. It's very subjective.
Of course.
But since the New York Times said grand slam, I'm thinking, what was the deal here? What was the quid pro quo?
Maybe that was part of it. You're right. I only got just a little piece of the Democratic response for good reason, because I don't know what, and it must be something with the sound engineers that the Democrats hire. If they're not screwing up Joe Biden, making him sound all distorted, one channel. Vote for Joe. This woman, she is, what's her name again, John? She's
the governor of Michigan.
Yes, she's Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah.
It was almost like, those ASMR videos where people, you hear them do that and they're eating and you hear stuff close mic'd. I mean, that's what this was. This woman, she had white strands of sticky saliva in her mouth and the mic was picking it up.
Groundbreaking legislation to finally give Medicare the power to negotiate lower drug prices for America's seniors and families. Those three bills and more than 275 other bipartisan bills are just gathering dust on Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's desk.
It's just everything she said, every word. She needed a glass of water or something. And of course, now the Democrats are afraid to drink water because every single time water comes up in a rebuttal to a State of the Union, it's always a big joke. Either you're drinking too much, too little, you're spilling. It's just like, it was the exact opposite of good television. It wasn't even good YouTube ASMR. It was
really bad. And the funny thing, she points out that the Senate's not doing anything. Well, of course, they're involved as an impeachment. And immediately, I do have this is a very short 45-second version of what, as soon as the impeachment gavel slammed down and the thing was over, there was time left. So Mitch McConnell immediately took over the place as everybody walked out. And this is a little bit of what you got to hear if you were listening to after the impeachment, just before he closed the Senate. He's all by himself, pretty much, doing the following.
Motion, we, the undersigned, sentence with the provisions of Rule 22.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Of the standing rules of the Senate, do hereby move to bring to a closed debate on the nomination of Philip M. Halpern of New York to be United States District Judge for the Southern District of New York, signed by 17 senators as follows.
I ask unanimous consent that reading the nays be waived.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that the mandatory quorum calls for these cloture motions be waived.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent the Senate resume legislative session and be in a period of morning business with senators permitted to speak for up to 10 minutes each.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to consideration of SRS 493 submitted earlier today.
The clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 493.
So what, he brought in 17 more judges? What the hell happened there?
Pretty much.
And everyone was like already doing press interviews. He's like, let me slip in a few judges while we're still here.
Yeah, he went in there and just blew away everything. I mean, this woman was bitching and moaning about the Senate not doing anything. Yeah, they're out doing press conferences, and he's in there running more judges through the system with unanimous consent. Yes, not without objection, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
You have to know what you're doing to manage this, but he was there doing it, and then he closed the Senate. He said we'll be adjourned until tomorrow at 11 when he was done with all this stuff. It was unbelievable.
Now, so then we had the really the scene-stealing moment, without a doubt, which I think was very effective in that regard. Pelosi ripping up the pre-torn speech that was just waiting there for her to rip. She had 3 piles, so she ripped 3 different times, make sure every camera angle got one rip. That's true. I saw it. I was watching very closely. That's what she did. And by the way, the so-called snub, he didn't shake Pence's hand either, and I wouldn't have shaken her hand. It's your enemy, a sawed-off lady. And she started by not saying, traditionally, it's my great honor to present the President of the United States in our House. She didn't do that. So, and who cares? But the ripping of the speech, I thought was very effective. I thought it detracts a lot from his message. People are talking about that and not about some of the other things that happened. According to this edited C-SPAN montage, which of course is cherry-picked, C-SPAN has the call-in lines. You can call in as a Republican, Democrat, or Independent. And they opened up the phone lines after the State of the Union. And this is a montage of Democrats calling on the Democrat line. Again, it's cherry-picked, but it's enough of them so you kind of get the idea of what people thought of not even the speech, but of Pelosi's action.
I've been a Democrat for 70-something years. And what I've seen tonight of the Democrat Party, I am changing my mind. I mean, I'll probably still be a Democrat. But far as I'm electing for a goddamn Democrat, never again.
I am a Democrat as well, but no longer will I vote Democrat. I think it's outrageous that they sat there when all these good things are happening to our country and how much we love our country, and they looked like they hated our country. And Nancy Pelosi, the whole time she's sitting up there with a disgusting look on her face, it's outrageous. I will never vote Democrat again, and I'm sick of it, and my whole family feels the same way. My husband, my friends are sitting here, all former Democrats. We all voted for Hillary last time, and therefore never, ever will we ever vote Democrat again. It's always portrayed that the Democrats don't love their country. Well, we love our country, and we want to see it succeed. But it appears to us that our Democratic Party has been stolen from us by a bunch of communists, and no longer will our family ever vote Democrat again.
I am literally disgusted with Pelosi and the Democrats' behavior, the way she teared up his speech behind him at the end. I was a registered Democrat. I've gone independent. I'm leaning GOP now.
With a simple rip of a paper, Nancy Pelosi has pretty much sealed the deal of a re-election of Donald Trump.
No, just a selection. No one gave me any other ones.
Could all be plants.
Could be plants. Could be all that.
Plants.
But it was on C-SPAN, and at least 3 people watched that, so it's influential. It's like a podcast on television, basically.
Like a party.
It's just like a party. So then, of course, he had the impeachment vote the next day. And Trump, I think he'd already done this meme before, this where it shows Time Magazine, Trump 2024, 2028, 2032, and it goes up to 60,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
And with that,
yes, very funny.
But I had my hair done on Tuesday.
Woohoo!
Yes, indeed. And my hairdresser is I consider her a friend. She's been cutting my hair for a long time. She also actually cuts, by coincidence, the former New York banker's hair. So we're only 2 male clients. And she, I wouldn't say she's a Trump hater, but she's kind of a Trump hater. She's not, necessarily, she's kind of agnostic, but she straddles. She's able to straddle in different dimensions, but her dad is, watches Fox News all day. And, so she actually said to me at some point, maybe she was a little grumpy. He says, "You sound just like my dad." I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's change that, because I that's really a comparison I don't want.
And you don't want to get a haircut from someone who's irked.
Well, but she's very, and we have a good exchange. But then she said something. She said, I really think he's a true dictator. I said, yeah, this is what you're being told. You do really believe that? She said, well, what if, even if he wins re-election, what if he doesn't want to leave after his second term? Now, this is a smart woman. And I looked, I said, do you really think, you know that this is just trolling, right? She said, no, it really could happen. And then I saw Bette Midler, who replied to his tweet with this meme of him staying in till the year 60,000. And this is all caps, because Bette Midler just types in all caps, I guess. He pinned this. You think this is a joke, don't you? It's not. He means it. He will change the rules, and his enablers will let him. If he wins again, he will rule you until he dies. You die or both. Then you'll get, and that's the end of it. She could not contain herself. And she really believes this. And this is a problem. If people don't see this humor, if they really are taking that seriously, that's a problem.
Well, I don't have this clip, but it was on PBS NewsHour. They were discussing this after the impeachment, and there was Judy on the right, and then there was a law professor from Yale or Harvard, some woman to her right, across from her, and then a guy who was I don't know who he was, to be honest about it, but he was maybe a Republican, and he said, well, and he starts talking about that particular meme. He says, this is another example of apparently Trump knows how to rub the Democrats' nose in it, and he just loves goading them because he knows all their hot buttons. And he says what's really bad here is it shows that there's a moment in history where the Democrats seem to have either lost their sense of humor or have no sense of humor. And as he's saying this woman, this law professor, was almost having a heart attack with a grimace on her face, and she was shaking.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, wow, this guy's nailing it.
And I said even to my hairdresser, that would be considered unconstitutional. And I know there's arguments that the Constitution says no person can be elected to the presidency twice. So there's question if you could be come from Nancy Pelosi could become president or Pence could become president. You can only do that for 2 years. I mean, there's all these ways around. But honestly, if it came down to Trump ends his second term, won't leave office, I think I would go to D.C. to tell him to get the hell out. I mean, it's ridiculous for any American to believe that the American people would allow that, or somehow this Trump army is going to protect him in the White House. No, it's not going to happen.
I have to remind people that this meme, which is an old one, before the term meme was
it's been around forever, right?
This goes back to when I remember it personally from Nixon. There was Mark Lane was out there, one of the guys, who used to talk about the Kennedy assassination, and Mark Lane said Nixon was working on running for the third term. He didn't even finish his second term, but that's okay. He's going to go for a third term. This came up with Clinton, and this never came up with George H.W. Bush because he never got in twice, but this came up with Clinton and
Obama.
Also came up with George Bush.
And Obama, too.
And Obama. That's right, Obama.
I remember it with Obama. I should have mentioned.
This is bull crap, but it's funny, and I think he did this on purpose, knowing it's going to get everyone all jacked up.
I forgot to mention during the Stanktuary City. So today, right after the stank of the Union, Homeland Security, I think it's acting Homeland Security Secretary, said, Department of Homeland Security, because New York State has declared itself a sanctuary state, we are immediately suspending enrollment and global entry and all other trusted traveler programs for all New York State residents. Fantastic move. Because they're saying, it's like, hey, you got people who could be there illegally who have can come into the country without being checked because they've got global entry. That's over. No more. Now you can still do pre-check. But all of the quick entry to the country programs are suspended for anyone from New York. I think that's fantastic. Can you imagine how many elites will be? Oh, I have to stand in line now. Oh, I can't just whip through the... Oh, I have to stay in line with the plebs. Let's make some work of this, damn it.
That bastard Trump.
Yeah, crap. Such a crap.
Yeah, that was a pretty slick move.
Yeah.
But there's logic behind it.
Well, sure.
And of course, Trump says they're going to pass it because they had that poor guy up there crying. Yeah. But Trump said in the State of the Union speech that they're going to pass a law that makes you're able to sue a sanctuary city if some illegal.
Oh, right.
Kills you in that city. You can sue the city. For allowing that guy to be there instead of, sending him off to ICE.
I've got to tell you this: the illegals, it's a problem, and I'll tell. And they also just allowed everyone in New York State to have driver's licenses, illegal or not. So Texas does not allow that, but people drive without licenses. And for the second time, it happened. Was it Thursday after the show? There's a little like Vietnamese place. The keeper was working late, so I drove there, parked my car, in a parking bay, and a guy turns in. He's got an old cab, repainted a kind of yellow green, and it's the paint that kindergartners use to paint with. It has that kind of really rough feel to it, and if you pass your hand over the car, the paint comes off. So yeah. Of course, he turned right into the back of my car. I've got yellow-green paint all over the bumper. It's damaged. It's, scratched. The whole thing's a mess. No insurance, of course. The second time. It's like no insurance. I'm sorry, man. This it makes me mad.
Well, yeah, but I have to assume that you're not the only guy, unless they're targeting you, that's getting involved with these guys floating around with no insurance. Police don't do jack about it.
I know, but, it's like, okay, so, he paid me some money and he can pay me some more next month. And I don't want to send anyone to jail. I don't want to do that. But I'm like, come on, let's just, you need insurance. If you're going to drive, follow some rules. Damn it. Pisses me off.
Apparently.
Well, yes, it does. I think we're done.
Park your car there. It's your fault.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry I exist. Well, I think is that it for the State of the Union? I think we've done everything.
Well, there may be
so
one
tired
clip,
of it.
a long clip. I got one here. There was one clip that. Yeah, I wanted to mention that just to get some of this out of the way. This is a Minnesota collecting personal information because they used to be a caucus state. Now they're trying to be a primary state, and now it's become a big to-do because they're collecting personal information to get you to register. Play that clip and get it out of the way.
is taking center stage just days before the Minnesota legislature heads back to work.
Secretary of State Steve Simon wants your information to remain private. For the first time, Minnesota is holding a primary to vote for presidential candidates. That means voters here will have to declare a party to get a ballot. As it stands now, that information will then be shared with all 4 major political parties in Minnesota: Democrats, Republicans, and 2 marijuana parties.
There are no limitations in the law whatsoever on what the political parties can do with that data. They could sell it. They could give it to a vendor. They could give it to a friend group. They could even post it online if they wanted to.
Oh, boo-hoo. Boo-hoo. You think that's
2
bad?
marijuana parties.
That's not bad. This is a quick OTG segment, 1 clip only, no jingles. This is what's coming.
Introducing Watchman Home by Rekor, a first-of-its-kind license plate recognition solution designed for everyday use. By utilizing your existing security cameras to recognize the license plate of a vehicle, Watchman Home gives you the ability to protect your family and neighborhood while also further automating your smart home. With Watchman, enhancing your home security system is easy. Simply enter the license plates of priority vehicles to receive notifications the instant they drive by your property. Now you can know your child made it home safely and even deter that pesky package thief. And enhanced home security is just the beginning. Because our software is built with AI and machine learning, we are big fans of the smart home. Using those same priority license plates, connect Watchman Home to your favorite smart assistant to open up your garage door, turn on your lights, unlock your front door, and more. At just $5 a month, Watchman Home provides sensible security and countless capabilities. Upgrade your cameras today and detect license plates the Watchman way.
There you go, everybody. It's coming to your home soon. So, of course, that only means that all these cameras, which are already used to surveil people and police have access to it, and it's all run by Evil Corp Amazon. Yeah, now we can have, you'll love license plate recognition. Put some license plates in there so we know who you trust, and we promise we'll just store that in the cloud. It's not a problem. It's only a matter of time before we as citizens will have access to these back-end databases. The facial recognition thing, same thing. It'll just be, you just walk past someone, hold your phone up. Oh, it'll flash like douchebag. Okay, I'm going to just leave you alone. I don't want to talk to you. It's going to change things so dramatically. And people will see it as great, like this. So the idea is,
that is the problem.
You
identified the problem.
Yeah. So here's how they're selling this is great. The video is even a little better. It's in the show notes, NAShowNotes.com. Because you have your own license plate. Of course, you want to put that in there, and you pay for the privilege. So pay $5 for a random the company called Watchman, thanks, to spy on you. So when you roll up to your house, it'll automatically identify your license plate and open the garage door. This is progress.
So in other words, if I'm a thief and I know where you live, and I'm driving around a car with green paint on it, I can back up, block your way out. You could be in an argument with me while an accomplice of mine goes into the front of your car, bending down. You can't see him. Takes your license plate off, runs it over to another car, puts it on real quickly while you're still in a dispute with the guy, jumps in the car, drives over to your place, drives up to the driveway. The garage door opens because they see your license plate. He drives into the garage, shuts the door, goes in and robs your house.
Doors unlock automatically, lights go on, and some nice music comes on so you can rob in peace.
Yeah.
Plunder in peace. Plunder in peace.
Because you're there to pick up Tina or meet up with her, and so there's nobody at the house. So what I just described as a scenario, how would that not work?
Oh, it's going to work. It's totally going to work. So
yeah, there you go. There's your future.
Yo!
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh yeah, that'd be fab.
Yeah, on No Agenda. In the morning.
And we do have a few people to thank for show 1214, starting with Sir Alan of Midlothian. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I forgot where's Midlothian. It's in Ohio or Virginia. Vince Dame in Tucson, Arizona, $115. David Schaefer in Kansas City, Missouri. He came in with $111.11 and does have he needs an F cancer for his friend Ralph, who just learned he has stomach cancer.
Well, let's do that right away.
You've got karma.
And he wants a douchebag call out for Matt.
Douchebag.
Here you go, Matt. John Robinet, $100. Thomas Wilkinson, Ottawa, Ontario. He says, thank you so much for high-quality content.
No.
Anonymous, $100. Sir Baz, Viscount of Svalbard, $100. And he's got a birthday coming up. Just look at his note there if there's anything that we should read. Victor Bosquez in San Antonio, Texas. I did have a note from him, but I don't have it in front of me for some reason. Thomas Shanoni. What do you think?
Shanoni? I'd say Shanoni. You say Shanoni. I say Shanoni.
And I say Shanoni. 9006, Sir Boob, 8008, Mark Tanner in Whittier, California. His twice monthly donation is 6789. Baron Mark Tanner. Sir Chris Abraham in Arlington, Virginia.
He needs a health karma. Still fighting AFib. We'll do a goat for you in a moment.
Les Olivares, 6229.
Lee Olivares.
Lee. Val Steensland in Kirkland, Washington. Homocosco. 60. Subodh Peth, 5510, double nickels on the dime. Baron Bob, a High Point. NC4RG, that's a 73s,
yes,
5510.
73s also to Subodh, who is KC5DDY, 73s, K5ACC.
Harry Pilgrim in Fredericksburg, Virginia, 5510.
Harry, he is a producer from way back. Met him on the very first Hot Pockets tour. Good to see him still around. All right, thanks, Harry.
Michael Gates, 5280. Sir Istvan in
Vurendal. By the way, we missed Francisco Tejeda.
Francisco Tejeda, 5432.
And
that's one of my favorites.
Sir Istvan from Vurendal says, he needs emergency karma for his best friend Cindy. And right now, more importantly, some serious F cancer karma to her partner, Renee. He's been battling liver issues for years and now has liver cancer that's spread to other organs. This does call for an emergency.
You've got karma.
There you go, Sir Istvan.
Robert Stotts in San Diego, California, 5111. Oh, here we go. We haven't heard from her for a while. Maxine Waters, Gravel.
Oh, the gravel is back.
5001. Mary Hoey, 50. These are all $50 donations. Name and location, if I have them. The location. Andrew Oxenham in Knoxville, Tennessee. Brady Schroeder in Milton, Georgia. Matthew Januszewski in Chicago. John Horner in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. Baron Alan Bean in Oakland, California, and last but not least, Sir Jason DeLuzio in Chatsford, Pennsylvania. I want to thank all these folks for contributing to show 1214 and making it possible.
Yeah, and you did make it possible, and it's really appreciated. It's also the people who come in under $50, typically to remain anonymous, but we also have a lot of subscriptions that people are on. We really appreciate that. The sustaining stuff, if everyone could do like $33 a month, which is basically a little more than $1 a day, if everyone did that, not just the 1.8% that support the show who are truly producers, that would make the donation segment short, I'll tell you. more content. But it's okay. It's a value for value system, and a lot of the value that we get in these donations is in the notes. It's just the things that we learn. So thank you very much, producers of the best podcast in the universe. And, we got some karmas that we need to do. And remember, we can use as much help as you can muster. Value for value. Go to
Dvorak.org/NA. Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
It's a birthday. Oh, no agenda.
And we really only have a birthday list for today. Nothing else with birthdays, but we do have a list. It's short. Karl Leipold, we congratulate him in advance of his birthday on February 9th. Sir Baz, Viscount of the Svalbard, celebrating tomorrow. And Stephen Storm turns 33 today and congratulates his mom, Mary Storm, on her birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday from everybody here at the best podcast in the universe.
It's your birthday, yeah.
And, all we have is some donations. Meetups.
No agenda.
It's a party.
It's like a party. That's right. Well, the Fairfield, Connecticut meetup will be taking place today at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Dame Jamie, a frequent contributing producer, is hosting that. It's for the New York City commuters as well. It's near Fairfield State train station. Today, it's probably over by now, or maybe coming to an end, in Ramallah, in the Palestinian territories. The No Agenda Toon Man Tour. This is Jesse Coy Nelson. He's been at Barley's in Ramallah, and we'll get a report from him, no doubt. See how, if anyone showed up in the Palestinian territories or not. Tomorrow, Friday, the loose top of the South New Zealand piss up starting at 7 o'clock NZDT, New Zealand Daylight Time. Your mate Tom is organizing that at the Spring and the Fern, Tahunawi. Also, Friday, tomorrow, Toronto, the No Agenda 6-week cycle meet up, MEAT up, Bishop organizing, and the Southern Shillanoisian meet up in Southern Illinois with St. Barry Brewery in the Old Hotel in Dequan. Joseph Hawkins, Sir Raleigh Hawk will be organizing for you. Friday's a big day. Seattle, No Agenda meetup at the Lookout Bar and Grill at 7:30. Patrick organizing for you. Then Saturday, Oslo, Norway. The meetup, 6 o'clock Central European Standard Time. Traveling through Norway, I want to meet some No Agenda fans at the Radisson Blue Scandinavian Hotel Bar, unless someone suggests a better location. And Bernstein will be organizing that for you on Saturday. Then on Sunday, the No Agenda Toon Man Tour continues. This will be the Jaffa stop. This will be at the Shaffa Bar in Jaffa. Once again, Jesse Coy Nelson is organizing that. And then Wednesday, the 12th, just added, not a brunch. It's No Agenda Local number 1, but a dinner at Stella's Trackside. Come join us to celebrate No Agenda trains and good conversation. And Sir Timothy of the No Fixed Title. But where is No Agenda Local 1, John? Where is Local 1?
That's the Michigan.
Is it Michigan?
No
okay, I just want to make sure. And that'll do it for the list for now. I'll give you more on Sunday. And I would like to remind you that the Keeper and I will be in Delray Beach at the meetup on the Friday the 21st. Looking forward to meeting everybody there. And if you want to find out more about a meetup you just heard, go to NoAgendaMeetups.com. If there's not one there near you, hey, make one. Start one yourself. It's a great way for people to get together. It really is the antithesis of social networking. You don't even have to tell people your real name at the meetup, but you have human interaction, human communication. And guess what? People are kind of civil, even if they have different ideas and thoughts about things. And you can just communicate with each other. So don't hide behind your Twitter profile. It's whatever this is, it's working extremely well for all ages, background, creeds, religion, colors. They're beautiful to attend, and we highly recommend it. NoAgendaMeetups.com.
What's interesting is a lot of dudes named Ben and a lot of librarians.
Are they hot librarians?
Yeah.
Sometimes you wanna go hang out with all the nights and days. You wanna be where you won't be triggered or held lame. You wanna be where everybody feels the same. It's like a party.
I'm gonna backtrack and go back to Victor Bosquez in San Antonio. He did send something in. It was he sent in a Fiesta, Texas Fiesta stuff, a couple of challenge coins. One, you got one.
Oh,
and he sent a copy of Twit magazine.
Oh, I got this. Hold on a second before you reveal. I received from him. I did get a challenge coin, the Info Technology Challenge coin, but then I don't know if you got this. I got a beautiful Beto 2020. Let me see what he categorizes it here as. Collectible San Antonio Fiesta pin medal of Beto 2020. It has a blue ribbon and this Beto on a skateboard. That's the one you got as well?
I think so.
Very collectible. What a beautiful item. We'll have about 100 of these on sale here at QVC, so why don't you get on in on this item right now and call them. But the Twit magazine, I left it in the envelope.
Did you go through it?
Yes. I didn't want this laying around the house. So his point of sending this, it's Twit, This Week in Texas, and it is a little magazine. And he sent it to prove that the name Twit was used way before it was This Week in Technology. The interesting. Well, would you describe this Twit magazine to us?
Yeah,
John?
Twit. Well, let's just say I'll try to remember to put a picture of the cover in the next newsletter. If you're not a subscriber, you're going to miss that. You're missing.
Oh yeah, you're missing out if you.
And so, yeah, it's a gay magazine for that highlights the bars and activities of the gay men in the Texas area, Texas.
Very hunky nude men in this magazine.
Well, buffed guys. There's just a lot of chests. You know, this seems to me if it's legal to have a guy's chest like that, exposed women shouldn't have any law against that either. But I digress.
Yeah, big time.
They do have all the bars listed. I didn't know he sent you a copy because I was going to recommend some of these bars to you just casually so trick you into going there.
There is one difference between Twit the magazine and Twit the network. The magazine doesn't actually have dick pics, so that's the big difference.
No!
Woohoo! Yes! Saving it all day.
Oh, brother. It's it's very funny magazine, but it's extremely. But anyway, the names in classic, like San Francisco has a lot of really fabulous bar names that are pretty obvious. So only idiots would not know that they were gay bars,
right?
But the one there I thought was the Iron Bear in Austin. That's the one I wanted you to go to.
Hey, oh yeah,
hey, go check out the Iron Bear.
Let's have the meetup there. That'll be great. That sounds good. Oh man, let's see.
Well, I hate to tell you this.
Let's do something about anything but Trump.
Well, I got the Weinstein. If you want to.
Oh no! Of course we want the Weinstein. We want.
But the problem with this Weinstein, I think that this clip. Well, before we do it, I do have a humorous clip. This is
Weinstein isn't humorous.
Well, not as humorous as this. Okay. This is the unavailable for comment clip from KTLA. It was a few months, like 6 months ago. Somebody sent it to me. Classic TV gaffe unknown gaffe to a classic stand-up woman that's out in the street somewhere doing a story.
We tried to reach out to the man who died in this pursuit. They were unavailable for comment. Micah, back to you.
I thought we played that one already.
I know I played it 1 million times. Yeah, the dead person was unavailable for comment. Okay.
It remains genius.
It remains unavailable for comment.
We've checked. It's still unavailable for comment.
Yeah, yes. We keep trying and it won't talk. All right, now this is disgusting. And if anybody has kids that they don't want listening to this, of course, not the kids don't want to listen to it. It's pretty gruesome. This is worse, I think, than the other clip, and I think it's questionable. But again, this went over the air, so I have to assume the FCC approved of this sort of thing, or would. But this is another woman who came on, who she's not really one of the complainants, but she might as well be. And this is but she's backing up the complaint that Harvey was a creep. We learned a few new things. This is Lauren Young, and she's being examined by the prosecutor and told to describe something.
I'm sorry. This is once again a court TV dramatized reenactment. And this got
the transcript.
I just wanted to, because it's important that we set that up properly. This was a winning segment on the last show. So many people, even lawyers, like, oh my God, this is insane. And it's such a brilliant idea why these guys don't turn this into a podcast. They're wasting their time on television, because this is some of the best audio entertainment I have ever heard.
Well, in this case, this is worse than the last one. I did cut it down. This is from a 6-minute clip. I cut it down to take out some of the foundational questions that the lawyer would ask to create a foundation for another question. And a lot of it was pretty dull.
I'm sorry. So that when you hear the lawyers say, because there was some question about that from the previous clip, foundational, what does that actually mean? Because you kind of explained it there, because it seems to be an objection. You
can't just jump into a question without laying down a foundation that makes it okay to jump into that question without getting the objection for relevance.
So kind of the opposite of how we operate on this show.
Yeah, and of course, the way I clipped this down, I just pretty much put the good stuff in.
Well, hello.
Or if you want to call it good stuff, to be honest about it, it's
good.
Disgusting.
It's good.
We learned more about Harvey's private parts that we didn't want to know, and apparently they passed around pictures of him onto the jury, and Harvey's sitting there. This guy must be on Prozac or something to be able to put up with this without just saying, I'm guilty, throw me in jail, I can't take it anymore. But here we go.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We left off this morning with you having followed the defendant into a bathroom.
Correct.
What point did you realize that you were headed into a bathroom?
Once I made that last right turn and was entering the bathroom is when I realized there was no other room outside of the bathroom.
Again, what reason had the defendant given you for having left that bar area?
To continue our discussion about America's Next Top Model.
And did he indicate that he had somewhere to go at that point?
That he had to go and accept an award with Quentin Tarantino.
I'm going to put up on the screen briefly People's Exhibit 87 in evidence. If you could describe for the jury what happened at the point you got into the bathroom.
So I followed Harvey in, and Claudia's behind me, and as I step into the bathroom, there's a mirror straight ahead, and I look in it, and behind me I see Claudia closing the door. Harvey went straight to the left into the shower, opened it, turned it on, and already started undressing. I turned around, and the door was finishing being shut. I stood there in shock. At first, I started nervously laughing and shaking my head, and I went to go towards the door to approach it, and he was already naked at that point. It was the quickest I've ever seen anybody undress. And he stepped in front of me when I went to approach the door with his naked body. At that point, he was right in front of me, and the door was his shower door was right behind him, and it was also blocking the door to the bathroom. And I could see a shadow through the door, and underneath that, Claudia, was still standing there.
What happens next?
So as I approached the door and he gets in front of me, he starts, no, we're just going to have a talk here. We're just talking like it was nothing that he was naked, rinsing off real quick, and I just come up here for just what I thought was to continue a conversation, and he starts approaching me. And I'm backed up. I backed up towards the sinks. There are 2 sinks. So I turned because I did not want to look at his naked body, and he came behind me and unzipped my dress, and he started pulling it down. I was wearing a white dress with lace and another undergown, the slip underneath it, and he unzipped it and started pulling it down and turned me around. And then he was masturbating and grabbing my boob with my right breast with his left hand and with his right hand, saying, how am I going to know if you can act? And I said, no, the whole time, that I had a boyfriend, that I was not interested. My hands were down.
Wait a minute. His line was, I want to make sure you can act? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And then he was masturbating and grabbing my boob with my right breast with his left hand and with his right hand, saying, how am I going to know if you can act? And I said, no, the whole time, that I had a boyfriend, that I was not interested. My hands were down to my side because the dress was pulled down towards my elbows and my breasts were out. And at that point, he went from grabbing my breast, my right breast, to touching my vagina. My hands were still down by my side, so I blocked him with my hands, and he continued to masturbate and ejaculated on the towel when he approached me, that he quickly dried off with and dropped as soon as he approached me. He ejaculated onto that towel.
What happens next?
He left the bathroom first, and I stayed standing there in shock.
Do you remember anything about his body, or at that point that he took off his clothes?
Yes.
Can you describe that for the jury?
I remember his body was hairy, had moles, like on his rolls. He had some rolls, and he had kind of a disgusting-looking penis.
When you say that, could you just describe what you mean?
Yes.
Objection. Overruled.
It had looked like it had been cut and sewn back on, not like a normal-looking scar from circumcision. It did not. Something didn't look normal. And I just remember noticing that, and I didn't really see on the sack. It just seemed like, the penis.
Did you, at some point in October of 2018, meet with people from the LAPD?
Yes.
At that point, did you attempt to describe what you were just describing to the jury?
Yes.
Did they ask you to draw a picture of what you remembered about the defendant's body?
Yes, they did.
Wow. So first of all, you probably should have disclaimed a little bit more. This can be triggering and shocking to some who have been in a similar situation. Yes, even our producers can be shocked by this. The sad part is, I've read, there's a big article about his lawyer. I don't know if you've seen, this is the woman who defends sexual predators. She's only ever lost one case. Reading through what she says and how she interprets the evidence, he's going to get off. And it's not a double entendre joke. He will not be convicted of these crimes. There's only two left of this, of which this is one. I think this is just one trial for these two women. He's not going to get convicted. I hate to say it.
No, I felt that way too. Now, the thing that was interesting in an odd way is that I believe that he must have had, there was a period of time in the 70s or 80s.
You're going to the genitals. Yes, I'm interested in your take on this.
Where there was a period of time where you could have this operation to make your penis longer.
Huh.
It was like a popular operation, I think, and I think Hollywood people would probably be susceptible to this kind of thing because they're so susceptible to anything. I think he had one of those operations because the way she describes it, it sounds as though he had a transplant.
Wow. And no testicles apparently, and scarred.
She never said that in
crappy
her testimony.
Crappy looking. Well, no, she said
rolls,
it was beeped.
Lots of fat rolls with lots of moles.
But it was beeped out. But I think she said it looked like he didn't have any ball sack. I think that's what the term she used that was then bleeped out. But it's disturbing. Oh my goodness.
Well, this whole testimony is just, and this, by the way, is just, I cut this down to 3 minutes of hours and hours of different women coming out with these horrible stories.
Yeah.
And it's really, Court TV really has to be commended for bringing some of this, changing the way these are presented. They've done a really masterful job of, and this is not the only case they're discussing. There's other cases, a lot of murder cases and serial killers. They have a lot of different people that they're following, but it's an astonishing product, and you can get it on, as you said, it's on Pluto. It's mostly over the air around the country on a subcarrier. Like this is on channel, I think this is, for me, it's channel 4.4.
Oh, it's over the air. Yeah, that's why it's 4.4. Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, that was a winner. I don't see anybody.
Well,
likes
no, it
this
was
thing.
a winner, but it's just creepy.
Everybody's blue from the Wuhan flu.
Yeah, a little Wuhan flu update, or the Kung flu as we call it. I have a couple of producer notes that are, I think, interesting to know how this is being handled, certainly in the United States. Adam and John, my coworker Jerry and his wife flew home last Thursday. Nobody said anything to them when they arrived in the U.S. because they came in from China. They thought someone from the CDC or the airline would want information. Nothing. GE told him to stay home for 14 days before coming back to work. That's it. Then we have producer Steve. Adam, in case you're interested, regarding the economic impact of coronavirus, here's something anecdotal. I'm a small manufacturer. I'm in the process of prototyping a new piece and missed the Spring Festival, a.k.a. Chinese New Year, deadline in January. That means the circuit board designs I submitted after January 19th won't begin until the factory opens at February 1st, but when I checked my order status February 1st, was notified the factory would now remain closed till February 10th due to an internal public travel ban. Basically means I won't be able to do any revenue-generating activity for the new gear this month. I'm already prepared for boom-bust on the sell-through side, but combining that with the supply problem makes the butthole pucker a bit. Yeah, people often think only about maybe Apple, but there's a lot of small businesses that depend on the JIT, the just-in-time supply chain from China. And an anonymous note, the Postal Service in Australia is telling its workers the virus can't live outside the human body for more than 2 hours, so no need to be worried about the hundreds of Chinese parcels that are handled every day. The hospitals and medical professionals I have spoken to say the virus will stay on a contaminated thing dormant for 2 weeks and still active. I don't know if that's true, but that's what our producer writes. Once activated, the contamination is permanent and dangerous. I feel the misinformation postal workers are being exposed to will increase the spread and severity of the pandemic. Please help raise awareness. It's herpes for the lungs. Maybe true. I don't know. But I'm still kind of sticking with the targeted nature of this that we were talking about on another brilliant animated No Agenda episode. Thank you, Dame Jennifer. That was, I hope we get some real viral traction on that, because that was one of the best deconstructions of the Wuhan virus that I think anyone's done anywhere. And it was hilarious. Hilarious.
Yes, indeed.
Hong Kong unveiling electronic tracking bracelets for people who have Wuhan and are quarantined to their home. 500 already put out there. We have officially designated Camp Ashland, Nebraska, for quarantine. That is an actual FEMA camp, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting there. We're getting to the FEMA camps. Next, we need to have pictures of thousands of body bags. Thousands. Have you seen the pictures, though? In Wuhan, people are so freaked out, they're throwing their pets out the window.
No, I've not seen that.
Oh, yeah, there's just dead dogs all over the place.
Why are they throwing their pets out the window?
They're afraid the pets, the information flow is not the best, I guess, in China.
Not in China.
No, I don't think it's the best. And so they're afraid that their pets may be carrying the virus. And so they throw them out the window. They can't go outside. Right. No, it's not right at all, but that is what's happening.
Well, then, this story's not going away.
And then the one thing I wanted to bring up, because it was irritating me, and now it's kind of freaking me out a little bit. When the China trade deal phase 1 came out, this is touted as a big deal, and we've got this $200 billion that the Chinese are going to spend, and so I read through this document just to see kind of what it was, and it's a very typical document between big countries. I'm actually bringing it up right now because there was the very last line in this agreement. I'm just going to scroll back through the PDF here. Yes, the very last line. Is it not in this part? Is you always have the what can break the deal apart. You always have some kind of provision.
Yeah, the out clause.
The out clause, and I'm not sure why I'm not seeing it here, but the clause says, I wish I could quote it for you verbatim. The clause says that should anything happen to either parties beyond their control. This would normally be called the force majeure clause, but they don't say that. So this is like an act of God or anything that happens outside of the party's control. Then the parties will immediately get back together, and basically the deal then gets reset, which is not abnormal. What if all of a sudden, we get attacked by New Zealand and, and we have different priorities or whatever, we have to change or we have to sell our corn somewhere else, which is fine. However, this agreement was signed on January 15th, 2020, when the Chinese fully well knew they had an epidemic going on in Wuhan. And that, I think, is not in good faith. They knew it, and they signed it with this clause in it.
Well, a lot of people say that that's what the Chinese do.
Well, pretty low if that's indeed what they did.
That's why the Chinese themselves won't do business with themselves unless the person for pretty much their entire life.
Yeah.
Which is, if you want to do business with Chinese and you want to, and they're legit, but you can't take a chance. You have to do a lot of being friendly and knowing them and making sure you're not a criminal kind of thing. They do that with you. You have to prove yourself, and you have to think the Chinese, they have to do the same thing.
And I hope that this is a lesson to us and many other countries and people and manufacturers who do business with China. Everything's great and hunky dory until you learn that until those guys don't really don't follow the same laws as we do, even the same cultural agreements, and you've got billions of dollars held up, and you're screwed. And so in a way, the crazy old coot, our Commerce Secretary Wilbur, he's right by saying this should probably be good for us. It'll build up some capacity in the U.S. I still don't think that this is going to affect Caucasians. There's now kind of evidence saying that this may have actually come out of the Middle East, and it was adapted, and through the Netherlands it was smuggled back into China, and it is a bioweapon. And in fact, if you look at the increase day over day, starting January 30th, here's the numbers. January 30th, 170 deaths, confirmed cases 7,821. That's a 2.1% death rate. January 31st, 213 deaths confirmed, 9,800. Oh, guess what? 2.1% fatality rate. February 1st, 259 deaths, 11,880 diagnosed. Guess what? It's 2.1% death rate every single day. That's interesting. Just from a mathematical standpoint. Is it engineered to do that? I don't know. The main thing is we don't know. And I thought with Trump saying pretty much nothing other than, we got to be careful of this stuff. He's all over this. He's got to know what's going on. I still think he's holding something over them. Whatever's going on, it'll come out eventually in the wash. But we are not being told the truth about anything.
No, we don't know anything.
We really don't know.
Maybe JC will dig up some more stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I got a couple leftover things. Talking about this kind of harem-scarum moment. This has not been played anywhere except in Minnesota, and I only caught it because I'm listening to CBS and Minnesota. But this is the fake emergency message. Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't, but we're about to.
A number of Minnesotans got a dose of panic with their breakfast this morning.
An emergency alert system sent them a message to evacuate. The message was part of a weekly test by Minnesota's Homeland Security and Emergency Management. It was mistakenly sent to residents of 6 northern counties. As Bill Hudson explains, now the state is trying to determine what went wrong.
For many folks in Pine City, the day began with a far more disturbing tune. At 7:52 a.m., cell phones sounded with an emergency alert. Evacuate now.
Well, it would sort of concern me, but I wouldn't know what to do or where to go where to evacuate to.
Pine County Emergency Management Coordinator Denise Barron says dispatch was overwhelmed with panicked phone calls. The state's message was both alarming and vague.
It hit the AT&T phones, not the Verizon phones, primary for this county, and created panic.
The alert omitted the words it was only a test and was not intended to go public. A probe's now underway to find out what went wrong.
Homeland Security Emergency Management reached out to every 911 call center in the state of Minnesota to let them know of the message that had gone out inadvertently. They did that within 10 minutes.
Yeah. Again.
The report goes on, by the way, and it equates it with the situation in Hawaii.
Hawaii,
and
sure.
But it was like, this was a story nobody wants to pass around. This is a repressed story.
Of course, we don't want people losing faith in technology, like during caucuses and stuff. So pathetic. And of course, amidst all of this, actual news, as reported only by One America News, is not reported. At least I would expect PBS, NPR to be all over this.
FBI head Christopher Wray, in a statement to a FISA court Friday, apologized in response to a scorching DOJ Inspector General report exposing FBI abuse of wiretapping and surveillance warrants issued under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, otherwise known as FISA. Wray's apology comes as a result of a FISA court looking into the wrongful surveillance of Trump advisor Carter Page. In a statement to the FISA court, Wray writes that the FBI's behavior surveilling the Trump campaign was, quote, unacceptable and unrepresentative of the FBI as an institution, and that the FBI deeply regrets the errors and omissions identified by the Inspector General. Errors and omissions that allowed the FBI to continue to surveil what we have now learned completely innocent Trump associates like Carter Page, George Papadopoulos, and General Mike Flynn. President Trump responded to the apology on Twitter, indignant at the lack of justice for those harmed by these FBI abuses of power. Chris, what about all of the lives that were ruined because of the so-called errors? Are these dirty cops going to pay a big price for the fraud they committed? President Trump has relentlessly attacked FBI leadership for being, quote, crooked. This admission from Wray is vindicating not only to President Trump, but for the Washington set that has long suspected the FBI to be a corrupt and politically weaponized institution.
And of course, the way this was produced and her read doesn't make it any more interesting to people to follow, obviously.
No, this is a problem. You have a news organization that's actually breaking stuff that the other people won't touch with a 10-foot pole. Yeah. They won't touch it. This story will not be touched. But the presentation, and I don't want to demean anybody, but they really need to bring their game up a little bit.
Oh,
a little
bit.
They got to bring their game up.
Big time.
It sounds like a high school production.
Well, the Curry Dvorak Consulting Group is available for side gigs.
And there are a lot of people out there with enough talent to do that work.
You'd think. Just two quickies here from two cool producers. Adam and John, I heard you mention the No Agenda chicken recipe the other day. I gave the link to my wife. She suddenly decided to make it. We had it tonight. It's really good. Thanks for the recipe, says Mark Anonymous. P.S. Here's my wife with the finished product. By the way, she wrote the 70s Helen Reddy song, Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady. How about that?
Wow, we have so much talent that listens to this show. It's ridiculous.
And the other talent is Laser Crafters. LaserCrafters, Laser Crafters LLC. They just started. They got it says Don. Been working with Mark, one of your artists, to print his art using my CO2 laser. To engrave 4mm cast acrylic, which includes a solid beechwood light base. We think it's a great format for your producers to display their support of the show on their desktop or use as a nightlight for their human resources. It's on Etsy, and I put this link. It's under cool NA lights in the show notes. It's really cool. The T-shirt, my favorite T-shirt, the one that has the 33 and the kind of almost like a test pattern with the swords crossing in the middle.
Yeah, that one.
So they have that one, and it's acrylic, and the base, it's a green light, and it shines out. It looks really, really fun.
It looks like code.
Yeah, it does look like code a little bit.
So put it on your desk, put it up in your bookshelf, and people like walk in your office will see it and go.
And just like No Agenda Shop, they'll be divvying up proceeds of these cool No Agenda lights between the artist, the show, and themselves. And we appreciate that. And I could go on forever, but I think we should probably.
Apparently, you could, but you can't. You can't because time is running out.
There you go. We're done.
I've got only clips I have can be easily moved around. I'm not going to.
No, we're going to move them. We're going to move them. The affiliates are already pissed all week. For the past this month, we've been late.
Hey,
so.
I got nothing to do with the timing on the show.
That's right. That's right. That'll do it for today. Thank you all for supporting the show, for producing it, as we say, because it's true, and they're a value for value system. Remember us at thevorak.org/NA for our Sunday show. Coming up on NoAgendaStream.com, That Larry Show with the Viva Coronavirus edition of their podcast. And you can sit in the troll room and troll along with them. And coming to you from Opportunity Zone 33 in the frontier of Austin, Texas, where it's snow on the ground in February. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where there is no snow. In fact, we haven't had snow in this area since 1972 or 3 or something like that. I'm John C. Dvorak.
We return on Sunday right here on No Agenda. Again, remember us at Dvorak.org/NA. Thank you to our end of show mixers, which is Chris Wilson, Phantomville, and John Fletcher. Till Sunday, adios, mofos! Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
The case, it was incredible, and the evidence invisible. Yeah, yeah. Witness inadmissible. Well, he's pissing off the liberals. He shows no remorse. He's a powerful force. Make America great, 'cause there's no other cause. He used to look good to me, but now I find him simply unimpeachable. Simply unimpeachable. Simply unimpeachable.
We are a big tent party at a place called So we have tens of thousands of people outside. And I said, folks, I have the greatest idea. All of my people, I say, I have the greatest idea. I'm so smart. Here's what we're going to do. We've got a party that's a very different party, a much stronger party, a much more inclusive party. We have a party that we love. That was a big thing. And by the way, we're winning like never before. Winning like never before. Like never before. What you see is so sad. We've got a party. We've got a party. We've got a party. They're waiting online for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 10 weeks. We've got a party. We've got a party. We've got a party. We are creating a pathway to buy drugs from Canada. We can buy the drugs in Canada for 50% less. The same drug made in the same factory. Drugs from Canada. It's a very different party, a much more inclusive party, a much stronger party. We have a party that we love. Pipelines are good. They're underground. We have a party that we love. We have a party that we love. It's like a giant tree. You plant it, but it takes time to grab on.
Nobody knows what's going on in Wuhan, Nobody knows what's going on with the Wuhan flu. Have you got the flu? Have I got it too? Nobody knows what's going on with the Wuhan flu. You took the face mask off, now you got a cough. Nobody knows what's going on with the Wuhan flu. Somebody let the bugs go free in Wuhan, Wuhan. Somebody let the bugs go free and now they got the flu. Close the doors and don't go out in Wuhan, Wuhan. Close the doors and don't go out in case you get the flu. Did you get the flu? Did I get it too? Nobody knows what's going on with the Wuhan flu. Nobody knows what's going on with the Wuhan flu.
The best podcast in the universe.
Adios, mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA.
A backup and a backup to that backup and a backup to the backup to the backup.